This is Baseball Tonight, the podcast.
And welcome to Baseball Tonight, live presented by Sage. I am Tim Kurkjian. I'm joined by Dave Schoenfield and Buster Olney, who allowed me, for some reason, to be the point guard tonight.
You love to play point guard.
I've been the point guard before, and I'm glad I'm
the Seamhead Show.
Yes.
You used to be the point guard all the time.
For several years, and Buster would come on and yell at me, and I had to tell him, Buster, I'm the host of the show. You're not allowed to yell at me, but you can tonight for sure. All right. I always think we should talk about the teams that get in on a day like today, not the teams that don't. But Buster, I'm not sure we can avoid this. The Mets were 21 games over 500. They had the best record in baseball, and they're not going to the playoffs. How do we explain this?
The worst collapse in baseball history. The first time I had that thought, I was wondering, is that too hyperbolic? And then you really think about it. The worst collapses we've always talked about, in 1914, in 1964, the Philadelphia Phillies, only one team made the playoffs from the National League. The 1978 Red Sox, two teams made the playoffs from the American League. There were 6 teams that made the playoffs from the National League. The Mets were in the NLCS last year. They signed Juan Soto, who had a great year, and they didn't make the playoffs, Tim.
Dave, they went 7-14 in September, and the ERA in that 21-game stretch was about 5 runs a game. Was that the biggest issue? What did you see that kept the Mets from getting in the playoffs?
Yeah, a multitude of issues. 21-32 the last 2 months. The Reds made it. They were only 27-28 the last 2 months, so all the Mets had to do was go 500 and they're in. But yeah, the pitching, you go back, the first 2 months, best rotation ERA in the majors, but they were only going 5 innings a game. The bullpen got tired. The bullpen was terrible in June and July. They added all the relievers at the trade deadline. That didn't help, and then the rotation collapsed down the stretch to the point where they had to use 3 rookies in the rotation down the stretch. That wasn't good enough. The pitching just fell apart.
The other day, we had the Cubs and Mets on the game on Wednesday, and Clay Holmes came in and basically ate mop-up innings in that game, and he started 3 days later. Okay? Right. That's how much their pitching staff was a mess by the end of the year.
It really was. So after the game, look, we expected Pete Alonso to opt out. At least I thought he would.
Yes.
I didn't think he would do it 30 minutes after a devastating loss like this. Now, granted, he was asked a direct question, are you opting out? And he said, yes, I'm opting out. Buster, what do you make of that?
It was a terrible decision for him to talk about this today. I mean, in the aftermath of this horrific collapse, the Mets are devastated, their fans are devastated, and right away, Pete goes to business in the offseason. It was a bad choice. It's going to get a lot of commentary. And look, it's not as if he's stepping into, to immediately rush out in the free agent market. There's not a big market for first baseman.
Yep.
Josh Naylor's going to be out there. He's going to be out there. I think the timing was terrible at a time that the front office owner, Steve Cohen, are kind of licking their wounds.
Right. And Dave, I wrote a story in April of last year about the position of first base, that we're no longer interested in that big, husky guy who hits homers and drives and runs. He doesn't play very well defensively. He can't run. He has no versatility. He can only play there. And that's what Pete Alonso is going to be up against again. You agree with Buster? This might not be easy finding a perfect suitor for him?
It won't. History says teams don't like paying for first baseman. Yeah, the Dodgers and Freddie Freeman. That's a rare exception, and he's a great all-around player. Pete Alonso hits home runs, but has some holes in his game. Wasn't that great 2 years ago, had a great 2025. But you try to go through the 30 teams, who's going to be interested? Like you said, Buster, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of matchups at a 9-figure, total contract. Are the Braves, would they bring him in as a DH? They need offense. But I think in the end, as bad as it looks today, opting out, I still think him to the Mets makes the most sense.
All right, I'm going to be point guard for a second and ask you the question, firing this at you. How do you think that would play in a clubhouse, in an organization, that he would answer that question right after this collapse?
Well, I'm sure it was not received well. The only thing he's got going for him is he has loved playing for the Mets. The Mets fans love having him there. This isn't a guy who just came in for a one-year deal and says, get me out of here. He's spent his entire career there, but I don't see how this plays well. And again, I was surprised to see him say this as quickly as he did.
I think the comparable situation was, you guys remember the 2007 World Series,
right,
when right in the middle of that competition between the Rockies and the Red Sox, there's a news story breaks that Alex Rodriguez is opting out of his Yankee deal. And the timing could not have been worse in terms of the perception of Alex for that to come out right then.
Agreed. All right, so what do the Mets do now? The Mets were really good in the middle of June, and now they're in disarray, at least for the moment. What do they do now?
Well, there's two things. We mentioned the pitching, so you need an ace or at least a number 2 level starter. But you want a guy who can chew up innings is what you need. Yeah, they got these 3 rookie starters. Nolan McLean, maybe he's a potential ace. His stuff is ridiculous, but he's not going to go out and throw 190 innings. Jonah Tong, strikeout leader in the minors, same thing. He's going to have an innings cap, so you need rotation depth. But the bullpen, outside of Edwin Diaz, they're all free agents. You're going to have to rebuild an entire bullpen. So if you're spending all this money on pitching, maybe there won't be money for Alonso.
I got 2 names for you. One, Shane Bieber, who is going to be the highest paid free agent starter this winter. He has demonstrated he's back from Tommy John surgery. He can be a guy you can rely on. I think you would both agree with me that his personality is such that he would be fine in New York. And the other guy I wonder about is Michael King. He's a guy who's been here before. He's pitched in New York. He grew up in the area. That's a name that makes sense to me. And, of course, there's going to be all kinds of speculation about Carlos Mendoza, the manager, because you wonder about owner Steve Cohen and what he's going to demand after what happened.
Michael K. is on the radio today, and he ain't afraid to say what he's thinking. It's the Michael K. Show on 880 ESPN Radio.
And a good afternoon, everybody. This is indeed the Michael K. Show. We thank you for joining us on this Monday, September 28th, 2025. We're here for 2 hours, the fastest 2 hours in sports talk radio. You know the number. Let's get involved. This is one of those days you just wonder, how do you even cover it? How do you even make sense of it? It's one of those days that the Yankees making the playoffs against the Red Sox, which on any other given Monday after the regular season would be a huge story. Backseat. Jackson Dart making his starting debut in the NFL and beating a previously unbeaten Charger team. That would be a big story. Backseat. Because the lead story happens to be what I think is one of the most embarrassing collapses in the history of professional sports. The New York Mets, with a $340 million payroll, not making the playoffs. A year after they went to Game 6 of the NLCS against the Dodgers, 2 wins away from going to the World Series. And they go out and they add Juan Soto, one of the great hitters of all time, a generational hitter who had a really excellent year, and they don't even get into the postseason. Steve Cohen sent out a long text, a long tweet about an hour ago. Said it was unacceptable. And they're going to delve into reasons why it happened. A lot of white noise. A lot of white noise. You could point fingers all you want. Players didn't get it done. And to make matters worse, to make it more painful for the New York Mets and their fans, they lose on Friday. They win on Saturday. They go into Sunday tied. They can't be tied because the Reds have the tiebreaker. The Reds lose to Milwaukee, and the Mets saw it up on the board that they were losing 4-2. And the Reds are not a great offensive team. If they have a strength, it's their starting pitching. You knew they weren't coming back from 4-2 down to Milwaukee. And you could not score a run. You couldn't score a run off the Miami Marlins. I don't know if a team should be more embarrassed ever than the Mets are and should be. And people want to point fingers now. They want to point fingers at Carlos Mendoza. They want to point fingers at David Stearns. Well, here's what I would ask you to do. And I want you all to be very rational. You look at the team that David Stearns assembled. Now, I think he did an awful job at the trade deadline. I think he did an awful job before the season with the players that he brought in and the players that he didn't bring in. Don't give him any credit for Soto. That was Cohen. Don't give him any credit for Alonso. That was Cohen. That was not Stearns. And I'm not a David Stearns hater. And I think he didn't have a great year after having a great year the year before. But just ask yourself this one question. The talent that he assembled coming into this season, should they, if they had Chris Carlin managing them, win more than 83 games? That's all I ask. And that's all they do is win one more game. And they would be in the playoffs right now, heading to L.A. Last night they would have been heading to L.A. to play the Dodgers, starting tomorrow night. So as bad a job as David Stearns did, and if you think that Mendoza did a bad job, I don't think necessarily that he did, but if you think that he did, the players, just on the strength of the back of their baseball cards, don't you think that they should have won more than 83 games? It's on the players, particularly the pitching. Going into this season on this show, I said the weakness of this Met team was the starting pitching. They were putting too much emphasis on the brilliance of Jeremy Hefner and their pitching lab. They did not bring in one stud, not one. Frankie Montas, everybody in baseball shies away from Frankie Montas because he's like that girl who's trouble. Beautiful, but you know she's trouble. He's got great stuff. He can't stay healthy. Couldn't stay healthy. Awful. You might have gotten the best out of Sean Manaea last year. You knew him better than anybody, and you still wanted to invest $3 million, 3 years and $75 million, and he was dreadful. You trusted him so little yesterday that with 2 runners on in the second inning, you could not trust him to get out of it. And you went to a bullpen which has been an inflammatory group of players the entire season. And they gave up the 4 runs, and that was it. That was over. The Mets can't hit. Mets can't hit as a team. They were 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. They left 10 men on base. And that's not an outlier. That's who they are. Blame the players. Blame the players. And the one chance they had, they do seem to have a black cat mentality in this franchise's history, or a black cloud over their head. They have the bases loaded in the 5th inning. And Pete Alonso hits the hardest ball he's hit all year. And Sanoa runs it down. End of the inning. End of the season. End of the dream. Now let's talk a little humbling of you. And being a little spiteful. Met fans can't get out of their own way. Now, I'm not saying all of them. So when I say Met fans, the ones that I'm referring to know exactly who I'm talking about. They sign Juan Soto, and all of a sudden, the Yankees are the little brothers. We're the big brothers now. The Yankees are the little brothers. They couldn't even keep their great player. Now we have the last laugh on you. Who's laughing now? I guess Plan B wasn't that bad of a plan, was it? Plan B, the Yankees won more games than anybody in the American League East. They tied with the Blue Jays with the most wins, 94. That's Plan B. That's without Juan Soto. That's spending them money and spreading it out over Max Fried and Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt I guess plan B wasn't that bad, was it? Now, the Yankees could get knocked out by the Red Sox. Nobody's saying that might not happen. They could. But they're in the playoffs. And the Mets are going home. Now, this is for the subset of Met fans who jumped me like I stole something from their 98-year-old grandmother when I said I had the audacity to say that Juan Soto wasn't happy when the Mets came into Yankee Stadium. I stand by that statement. I was correct. He wasn't happy. At no time did I ever say he was never going to be happy as a Met. But you people couldn't control yourself. Every time the Mets won a game, I mean, that was not during the 2 7-game losing streaks and the 8-game losing streak. Not during that time. Anytime they won a game, and Juan Soto had a good game, I got the idiotic, brain-dead tweets. Oh, doesn't seem like he's glum now. Doesn't look that unhappy now. I'm sorry, you guys have been mysteriously quiet today because there was a shot of Soto in the visitors' dugout yesterday at Lone Depot Park. He looked very glum. And if I was a bad guy, which I'm not, if I was a vindictive guy, which I am, but the fact that I'm not a bad guy overrides the fact that I'm just sickeningly vindictive, I would have tweeted out that picture of Juan Soto with a very unhappy face in the dugout, say, looks pretty glum. But I didn't do that. Too classy. But you wouldn't have been classy if he had come up in the 9th inning and hit a grand slam to tie the game and they won in extra innings. You don't think that my inbox would have been full today? Because you can't help yourself, can you? And the baseball gods frown down upon that arrogance and that nastiness and that viciousness. I'll tell you this right now. I haven't even seen Juan Soto today. I bet you he's unhappy. I bet you he's unhappy that the team that he left because the Mets offered him more money and a suite and his mom gets new clothes, I bet you he's really sorry he left the Yankees. Because the Yankees are going to the postseason, and the Mets are going home. David Stern's going to have a press availability today at 3:30. I'm sure they'll cover it on Don Hahn and Rosenberg. What's he going to say? Some coaches are going to get fired. Andy Martino already wrote yesterday that Mendoza's not going anywhere, and I don't think he should. But maybe this is a lesson for that subset of Met fans that can't get out of their own way, that are so unhappy and so vicious, that maybe pipe down. Maybe if you pipe down, good things might happen. Maybe if you pipe down, you might make the playoffs 2 years in a row every once in a while. Maybe. But the Met team that you celebrated during the offseason can be completely different in 2026. I don't think they bring back Pete Alonso. I mean, how could you bring back the same team and expect things to be different? I think there's something broken. I think there's something broken in the clubhouse, which will come out. Already a big story in The Athletic today that Lindor and Soto have completely different views on how to get ready for a game. Soto is very serious. He attacks each game as if that's, he has to conquer that game. Lindor is very light, laughs, smiles, that they're different. That's why if it wasn't about money, it might have been the best thing for Juan Soto to stay with the Yankees, because if that's the way he attacks a game, the Yankees have always been very corporate. They're not the jolly carnival atmosphere that some players desire. Every game is big for them. I mean, they wear pinstripe suits, just like all those people on Wall Street. They're very conservative. So if Juan Soto doesn't like one guy being so lighthearted, why did he go to a team where that guy is a big part of it? Just consider this. When you say, oh, they got to break the Mets up, well, they're unbreakable. Soto is signed through 2039. Consider this. I'm in fairly good health, but there's a good chance I won't be alive at the end of his contract. I'm 64. So 2009, I'll be 78. Who knows? Who makes it to 78? That's over the life expectancy in America. Then you've got Francisco Lindor signed through 2031. And then you got Brandon Nimmo signed through 2030. Now, Nimmo, if you eat some of his contract, maybe you could trade him. Maybe. Lindor's not going anywhere. Soto's not going anywhere. So you're going to have to make your changes elsewhere. Maybe, I don't know, maybe, Met fans, you'll have another opportunity to try to kick in the Yankee fans' teeth if you steal Cody Bellinger this offseason, because he's going to opt out of his deal. And nobody, including the Dodgers, are going to outbid Steve Cohen. They're just not. Yankees wanted Soto back, and they couldn't outbid Steve Cohen. Maybe they also got to a point where they go, well, this is silly. We're not going this high. So maybe you can hang on the rim during the offseason. Oh, look, we stole Cody Bellinger from you. Like you were hanging on the rim because you stole Juan Soto. And I'm not going to sit here and be a liar or try to recreate a new truth. Yankees, it hurt them to lose Soto. For Hal Steinbrenner to go to $760 million, way above what I'm sure his baseball people wanted him to go to. That's how much he wanted him. That's how much he realized how important he was. But I've said this 100 times. You know, they want Steinbrenner to spend more money. You can spend all the money you want. Doesn't guarantee victory. You got to have some kind of cohesion and chemistry on that team. Mets obviously don't. They couldn't get out of their own way. Here's the thing that really has to sting. You got beaten out of a postseason spot by the Reds. The Reds, who have a third of your payroll. The Reds, who from the All-Star break on, they went 33 and 32. It's not like they overtook you. You were just inept. You gave this away. It is inconceivable. I never thought the Reds would catch you. And if you had a decent team with a little heart, they wouldn't have caught you. It's inconceivable to me that the Mets are not in the playoffs. Inconceivable. I got a lot of Met friends, fans that are Met fans, or friends that are Met fans. They're devastated today. How could you not be? This team systematically rips your heart out. And those are the people I genuinely feel for. I really feel for them. The people that I don't feel for, the people that made me think that it might be fun today to come on at 1 o'clock and just giggle for 2 hours. You know who you are. You're the creeps that couldn't let good enough be. You're the ones. We're the big brother now. You're the ones who kept sending those tweets out to me. Oh, Juan Soto looks happy now. How dumb do you feel? How chagrined are you? Are you embarrassed? Because this was going to be the dawning of a new era. The Yankees were going away. When they went 20 and 31 over those 51 games, you were rejoicing. I don't think the Yankees can make the playoffs. See, they couldn't do it with their plan B. Plan B worked. Your plan A didn't. You signed the best free agent available in a long time. One of the best players ever to become a free agent. Just a smidge behind Alex when Alex Rodriguez became a free agent at 26. That's how valuable Juan Soto is. And you still fell flat on your face. Again, every Met fan out there, I feel for you. I do. And I don't rejoice in your pain at all. But it's that vicious, angry subset of Met fans that weren't hugged by their parents, who didn't have any love in their family, and they just loved to pass along hate. Derisive, nasty. Those I don't feel sorry for. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I feel glee. about your pain today because you deserve it. The way you tried to make my life a living hell by all those Juan Soto tweets when you knew that I never even said the stuff that you're accusing me of saying, but you needed something to hang on the rim about. And you said, let's pick the guy who announces Yankee games and is also accessible on the radio show. Let's do it to him. But now I'm the one who's laughing at you because you couldn't beat out the Cincinnati Reds with a $110 million payroll. You added the great Juan Soto to a team that went to Game 6 of the NLCS, and you didn't make the playoffs the next year. How do you wrap your mind around that? How? Now, in 3 days, you might be calling in and laughing at me because the Yankees could get eliminated by the Red Sox in the wild card. They could, and we'll talk about that later on. But my comeback to you would be they played postseason games on a plan B. Your plan A, you couldn't even get to the postseason. So all you nice Met fans that I love, and some of my best friends in the world are Met fans. Mike Breen is a Met fan. I feel for him today. But I want the arrogant ones, the ones that were, in their own way threatening me and, telling I'd eat concrete if I went to that game on June 12th. Instead, I met the nice Met fans, the ones with the loud, obnoxious voices on social media, nowhere to be found. I wonder if they'll call in today. I wonder if you have anything to say today. I wonder if you think maybe we still are the little brother. Maybe all the money in the world can't buy a championship. Because look at the Dodgers. Dodgers spent an inordinate amount of money during the offseason. Oh, so much money on relief pitching. Their bullpen stinks. They had the third best record in the National League, so they're facing the Reds. They catch a break. If they don't beat the Reds, it won't be as bad as the Mets not making the playoffs, but boy, it'll be bad. Milwaukee Brewers don't spend any money. They have the best record in baseball. The Houston Astros spend a lot of money. They didn't make the postseason, but you can't laugh at the Houston Astros because they made the postseason every single year, since 2016, 2015? The Mets can't seem to, shake the habit of not being able to make the playoffs 2 years in a row. And the Mets didn't just collapse everybody. Here's what happened. It was a slow motion horror film that started on June 13th. It was like it was unfolding in front of you in slow motion and you couldn't stop it. And why I think that this is one of the worst collapses and embarrassments in the history of professional sports. This is a sport with some people thinking an embarrassingly expanse of their postseason, where 3 teams go to the wild card, and you couldn't get into the party. Goodness gracious. How did this happen? Please, that subset of special Met fans that are miserable in their own existence, please, I want to hear from you today the most. Any apologies in order? Because your owner, Steve Cohen, who I think is a good guy with great intentions, he sent out a tweet today apologizing and saying that the season was unacceptable. Now, I don't think he has anything to apologize for. The guy has spent more money than anybody could have imagined or even wanted him to. And maybe he'll spend more money this offseason. But he has nothing to apologize for, just like George Steinbrenner had nothing to apologize for when the Yankees lost in 1981 to the Dodgers in the World Series. But Cohen wears it, and he apologized, and he did say it's unacceptable. The 2025 New York Mets not going to the postseason is unacceptable and embarrassment to the nth degree that I can't even wrap my mind around. We'll talk some Jackson Dart. We'll talk the Yankees starting the postseason tomorrow against the Red Sox at the stadium. Many things going on. But I want to hear from you. You know I'm looking right in the camera. You know I want to hear from you. It's you. You're the one I hear from. I want to hear from the Big Brother screamers. I want to hear from the Juan Soto doesn't look glum screamers. That's the people I want to hear from. Or are you hiding in a corner right now, sitting in your own vomit and your own unhappiness? I wonder, can you dial the phone today? Because I want to hear from you. I think that would be fun. And I want to have some fun today. Let's do that together, shall we? I hope you're watching us on our new YouTube channel, which you could go to the ESPN New York app, click on the YouTube tile, subscribe, and enjoy. You can listen to us on the ESPN New York app, and, of course, you're listening on ESPN New York. 1-800-919-3776. Now I want to talk to you. Let's go to and start off with our friend Phil in Brooklyn. Phil, what's up, man?
Mike, I'm a full season ticket holder for the Mets. I lived through the 07 collapse, the 08 collapse. This is much worse. The problem with the Mets, one of the many, many problems with the Mets, anytime they have a good year and they make the playoffs, it's a miracle. And then the next year they have expectations, and they never fulfill them, ever. 06, great year, magical run. That was it. 15, great year. Next year they barely made the wild card game. And that was it since 2022. And then 23 was a disaster. There's no consistency with the Mets. Anytime they have expectations, they never fulfill them.
Yeah, it's really a hard one to explain. I mean, I don't believe in, voodoo or curses or stuff like that. But how is it possible that this team has not won a championship since '86, has won just 2 in its 64 years of existence? How's that possible? Now you have an owner that their money is no object at all, and still you won 83 games with a $340 million payroll, which probably cost Steve Cohen around $400 million. If I'm Steve Cohen, I'm red hot. Absolutely red hot. This is what he tweeted out today at 11:53. Met fans everywhere, I owe you an apology. You did your part by showing up and supporting the team. We didn't do our part. We will do a postmortem and figure out the obvious and less obvious reasons why the team didn't perform up to your and my expectations. We are all feeling raw emotions today. I know how much time and effort you have put into this team. The result was unacceptable. Your emotions tell me how much you care and continue to motivate the organization to do better. Thank you to the best fans in the world. Well, if I'm him, I'd be devastated and I'd be red hot because he didn't spare any expense, did he? He spent silly money on Juan Soto, and that wasn't good enough to get them over the hump. Not only over the hump, but now they're back to square one. Think about this. There were 4 teams. Talk about bad luck. There were 4 teams during this last offseason that vigorously pursued Juan Soto. Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, and the Mets. Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees didn't get him. They're all in the playoffs. The Mets won the lottery. They got him, and they're out of the play. How do you explain it? It just doesn't make sense. Let's go to Britt in New Jersey. Britt.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you doing?
I'm good. Listen, I like to always take a step back and look at sports as, what it is. It's a business, right? You have to have chemistry. You have to have people that, gel with each other, so on and so forth. And I got to be honest, the second that I found out that Soto was choosing the Mets over the Yankees because of money, I thought this isn't going to end well. Never go with money over chemistry. He had it with the Yankees. He had it with Judge. He went over to the Mets. I think there's also resentment from the other teammates. If I'm another teammate and I'm like, wow, this guy's coming in, he's making all this money, what's he going to do? And then he comes in and actually disrupts the team if he's, wanting to be serious and all that stuff, that coming out. I will not be shocked about anything that comes out having to do with that team chemistry or lack thereof.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but a good clubhouse, Britt, should be able to absorb it. If he signed with the Yankees, he was going to make silly money just like he's making now, and Aaron Judge would have made sure that he was accepted and embraced in the clubhouse. You know, sometimes you have to realize what you have. And the one thing that stands out in my mind is during his press conference, he said, because no one can tell the truth and say, listen, the Mets made me an offer I couldn't refuse. There's nothing wrong with that. Instead, he gave some poppycock stuff about, I think the Mets are, you know, in a better position to go to the World Series than the Yankees. Really? They're not even going to the playoffs. And the Yankees have a chance to go to the World Series, so that sounds dumb. If he would have just said, you know what, the Mets made me an offer I couldn't refuse, everybody would have said, yeah, I get it. No, I would probably leave a job I love if somebody made me an offer I couldn't refuse. But instead, he played the card, you know, the Mets are better positioned to go to the playoffs. Well, they're not. They don't even go to the playoffs. And I said at the time, I said, that's incorrect. The American League is easier than the National League. The road to the World Series is easier through the American League than the National League. But I was wrong because they didn't just get beaten out by a good team. They got beaten out by the Cincinnati Reds. So it wasn't like there were so many great teams in the National League that they squeezed the Mets out. The Mets got squeezed out by the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds have not made the playoffs in a full 162-game season since 2013. 2013. And a team that was 21 games over 500 at the end of the games on June 12th, they couldn't hold what at that time they were 9 games clear of a playoff spot. 9 games. And they lose to the Reds? I mean, how do you reconcile that? And for the Met fans that want Mendoza fired, listen, it's not always the manager. And I tell Yankee fans this as well. Stop with the Boone stuff. Stop with the Girardi stuff. It's not always the manager. Sometimes it's the players and players that you put together that might not fit and the chemistry in the room might stink. That's what it is. So Carlos Mendoza was a genius in 2024. And today I'm seeing Met fans, well, they got to get rid of Carlos Mendoza. Why? He all of a sudden became dumb? They already did it once with Buck Showalter. He won 101 games. Then an injury-ravaged team where he lost Edwin Diaz in the WBC, and they have a bad year, and they fired him. So then Mendoza has a great first year. They go to the playoffs. They go to the 6th game of the NLCS, and then they miss it this year, and it's on him? I don't think it's on him.
I think this is worse than 2007 because 2007 you lost to a really good team that was hot. The Mets got cold. Phillies got hot. They blew a 7-game lead with 17 left to play. They chased down the Reds. The Reds didn't chase the Mets down. The Mets chased the Reds down.
Right.
Reds stink.
I agree with you.
And this thing that's going around in Cincinnati, like where they got like Dan Grassa and Sal Licata on SNY talking about, I don't fear the Reds. I fear the Mets. The Mets lost it. I don't want to throw any shade at the Reds. Good for them.
Couldn't agree with
they
you
got
more.
no payroll. Great.
They backed in.
But
So
the
what
Mets.
what did I say wrong?
The Mets stalked them down. All right.
Right.
So you're right. This is an absolute, unmitigated embarrassment.
The worst kind of embarrassment.
One of the worst things
mitigated.
that has happened to the Mets ever. And Yankee fans should relish in it because we've had those conversations. Don't be a fraud. You root for both teams. Oh, I want the New York teams to do well. Garbage. You should love it if you're a Yankee fan.
Right.
Just like any Met fan would love it if the reverse had taken place. But what I had taken exception to you is that forget social media. It's a cesspool. I don't know if there's been no Met fans on this station. Me, Dave, Rick, all right? Anybody behind the scenes. Any Met fan that I know ever uttered in any kind of seriousness, oh, now we've taken over the town because we got Soto. What kind of good? Nobody, who would think that? Forget about the social media garbage.
Did you take phone calls? That's all that we're saying.
But they might have been going to take over what town? Take over just because of what? Can we play the season for?
You didn't hear that phrase?
I saw it on social media. What logical Met fan would call up and say, we now own the town because we took Juan Soto?
Aren't those mutually exclusive words?
What do you mean?
Logical Met fan?
Well, this is what I was going to get into.
Oxymoron.
When you're calling Met fans creeps on the air.
No.
Oh,
I
my.
said the certain subset that all summer,
that's
every time something
why
happens,
is it?
I would get a tweet.
But why is it? Why is it, though, Peter?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
That the very vocal minority of people the yo-yo, because any idiot, and I will call them idiots, all right, that would think because the Mets got Juan Soto, before they even played a game, that they're going to own the town. Give me a break. The Yankees have owned the town for 30 years. You think it's all of a sudden going to change overnight? Stupid.
You said no. You said, I know. You didn't say that was the
right.
case. A lot of Met fans did.
don't think it was a lot of Met fans,
I think you're
Michael.
wrong.
I don't think it's a lot of Met
fans. They
fans.
felt that they won the World Series, and they took the city away
this
from
is
the
the
Yanks.
problem that I have.
Here we go.
Is that because I think a lot of Yankee fans, because we took phone calls on Friday.
Right.
Who were like, yeah, the Met fans stuck out their chest because they got Juan Soto. I wasn't allowed to stick out my chest. I wasn't be proud of my organization to finally reach out and get one of the biggest free agents in the history of the sport.
Absolutely.
Like, it feels like Yankee fans were like, oh, what are you talking for? So you got Juan Soto. We couldn't be proud and happy that we got Juan Soto?
And you should, but again, maybe you're saying that social media is a cesspool, but it is our connection as well.
Because
as
they
phone
went
calls.
after you because of the stupid comments not that your comments were stupid, but the way they were taken about that he was glum. He was glum,
right?
Being a man.
Oh yeah,
now
right?
Peter,
glum boy. I remember that.
Now, I want you to know, Peter. I want you to be proud of me. I always look for your pride in me.
Thank you.
How I've grown.
Yeah.
Because there was a part of me, because there was a lot of pictures of Juan Soto in the dugout yesterday, looking very, very glum.
And you didn't post.
And I was going to post one and go, guess I was right. But no, I've grown.
But you're better than that.
But again, let's just
look at you.
So I don't get why it's. Yeah, you should be upset if you're a Met fan, obviously, and Yankee fans should be very happy about it.
Right.
But it's not over, right? I mean, because what if it probably won't happen because it's the Mets. But if they turn around and win the championship next year, so he's not glum anymore. Like, it's still fluid. He's got 14 years left on his contract.
But you do know that I said he was glum entering Yankee. I didn't say he was going to be glum for the rest of his life.
No.
But that subset of Met fans
he was
who
glum
I
because
despise,
he
they're the ones
right,
who
but
continually harped on it.
I don't understand why you give fuel to those people.
Because they give me fuel.
But it's a cesspool.
But I thrive in a cesspool.
You love that. That's his favorite kind of pool.
It is.
Because I just don't because I think you're feeding into them. Any Met fan who think, we're going to own the town because of Juan Soto. We didn't even play the game yet.
Alan, did you hear that from Met fans? Yes. Now there's a new big brother.
I wanted to check to see, just to get the timing right. Soto signed on the 11th of December.
Right.
You guys still had 3 days of show left together. 13th was the Christmas show, right?
Yep.
That was the last one. Okay, so you had 3 days. We don't have the archive since we moved, but you had 3 days of calls. Now, I was
people being happy that they signed Juan Soto.
I was doing shows with Bart that week. We were in the midday, and I absolutely remember those calls. Absolutely.
You got a lot of hanging on the rim, Don. I'm telling you, I'm not making stuff up.
A lot of panic, a lot of look at you switching the story. You didn't get him. Now you're making it out like it could be. How could you say it could be better for the Yankees?
But wait
and
a minute.
those weren't coming from Yankees fans, Don.
But why couldn't a Met fan be happy that they got Juan Soto?
They should have been.
There's
They should have
happy.
been joyous.
Right. There's happy, and then there's spitting in your face happy.
They spit in the face happy. They really did.
No, listen, I wasn't one of those people.
Karma.
I don't think the
Of course
majority
not.
are just happy. But no, you just said karma.
Karma.
Good karma.
Great karma.
And what if the Yankees lose to the Red Sox? Then you took a step back without Juan Soto.
Still got to the
like,
postseason.
don't you think Yankee fans are hanging on the rim a little too
194
soon?
games.
No,
Lose the next 2 games against the Red Sox, and
Michael,
you've got a better season.
How many wins did the Yankees have last year with Soto?
Same amount as this year.
94, right? How many wins this year? 94? How's it a step back? Same amount of wins.
Well, if they don't go to the World Series, he said.
Right, if they don't go to the World Series.
It's a lot harder of a road, as you said.
Yeah, but
right?
I'm
We've
just
acknowledged
saying,
that.
and it's still a better season than the Mets. But I just said it's still a work in progress here.
Right?
So
as a Met fan,
he's minus 11 with the Mets in wins. Minus 11.
and also, forget about the Met fan. All right, because you're dismissing the people in the cesspool, okay? How about Soto at the press conference said, I chose the Mets because they have a better chance to go to the World Series than the Yankees. How's that looking right now? How's
facts.
that quote?
There's
Rather
facts
than
there.
saying, you know what? I had an offer I couldn't refuse.
Well, because nobody ever does that, right? When Giambi signed here, my father's favorite player was
and we said
Mickey
it was
Mantle.
fraudulent.
Of course, because nobody ever says what it's always about, the money. We said it from the very second. I never hung on the rim about getting Soto that the Mets were better than the Yankees because I said it with you, and it is archived. It is on record. We both said it. He's going to go to the highest bidder, period.
Yep.
Has nothing to do with who's got the better future or anything else. It was all about
But
money
that's what he
or
said.
luxury. Because he says it, they all say it. Jack Morris was, I'm so glad to be back in Minnesota, signed a 1-year contract, and then the year after they won the championship, all of a sudden he didn't love Minnesota anymore. Go sign someplace else for more money. They all say it's all about the money. They won't say it because that doesn't look good in the press conference, but he was no different than any other free agent that signed someplace else. I signed here because of the schools. That's what Hampton said. He came to the Mets because of the school.
No,
or went to
Colorado.
Went to Colorado for the schools. Give me a break. Went to Colorado because they paid him more money.
But don't you think, I don't think Yankee fans are euphoric because the Mets didn't make the playoffs. I think they're euphoric because of what the Met fans said when they got Soto. That's why
I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that we were just happy to get Juan Soto, to finally get a win against the Yankees. There was somebody you wanted, somebody we wanted, and we actually got him. And we were happy about it. And I think that bothered a lot of Yankee fans that we were happy about it. Because we took the calls on Friday, and again, the quote was, sticking your chest out. I can't stick my chest out that the Mets finally went out and got the most coveted free agent in the last 25 years.
And you bring up a great point, too. If Thursday we're doing a postmortem and the Yankees lose the 2 games to the Red Sox, the Met fans, they'll be euphoric.
No, but because there's some idiots that went after you on social media
it was endless.
But it was because it's always endless. But I'm sorry. Any Met fan who thought they owned the town before they even played a game that they got one Soto is a moron. Is a moron. But I don't want that to represent.
Narrative.
I don't. But see, that I disagree with. It's the prevailing
You're
narrative.
Mad at the wrong person, Don. You're mad at the wrong person.
Because I don't understand why he's giving them fuel.
Well, because
then that becomes the Met fan when he says, you guys are creeps.
There you go. But that's the problem. They're representing it. Why? Because they're the loud minority. That's why. They're loud about it, and other Met fans say nothing. But that represents you because of how loud they are.
Maybe you got caught in a bad zone.
No, I heard what you said.
I didn't say all Met fans are creeps. I said that subsection that was coming after me about the glum Juan Soto.
And I just don't think that is the majority of Met fans.
But here's the problem.
Just like I don't think
minority.
I live in the
You think majority of New Yorkers are lowlifes like the people that are Bethpage Black? But we're painted all as lowlifes because that's what was presented. Those are the loudest people.
And that bothers you as a New Yorker when in Nebraska and California and in Canada they're saying, boy, those New Yorkers are real scum.
Right.
Look how they treated everybody.
Especially Long
and all
Island.
I'm saying is don't have the whole fan base be judged by a few Twitter dwellers
and that's why
that went after you for what you said.
I specifically went after that subset. I even said I have Mike Breen's one of my closest friends in the world. I know he's crushed by the Mets. And I feel sorry for those fans. They're great fans. Steve Cohen laid down the gauntlet to them. I want you guys to show up. They showed up. They had crowds of 40,000
Yeah, that's what makes this even worse.
All the time.
That's what makes this worse because we bought into it and we all went. Highest ever at Citi Field, 4th highest in franchise history.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what you give them back. And the other thing I disagree with you, I think Stearns has to take a hit. Yeah, I guess on the back of your baseball card, he built a good team, but was there chemistry with this team? Did any of the acquisitions at the deadline, any of them pay off whatsoever? That bullpen stunk from high heaven and got worse after the deadline.
Even the offseason, his acquisitions didn't work. The 2 biggest acquisitions were all Cohen. They don't get Soto if it's up to Stearns, and they don't get Alonso. He didn't want Alonso. And I think Alonso's gone now, by the way. Because you got to change something about the team.
Well, but I don't. That's change for change's sake. How are you going to get rid of a guy that drove in 127 runs?
Don, they've got to get better defensively. They're an awful defensive team.
I just look at that team and I think that's he's the least of your problems.
Yeah, is switching at first base going to be the thing that solves the defensive problem?
You got to start somewhere.
You know what they'll do? We'll go through the whole thing again, and they'll sign Cody Bellinger. Everybody be hanging on the rim again, and they'll play Cody Bellinger at first, who's a great first baseman.
That's what I'm talking about.
He won't stop. He can't stop.
I guess the problem I have with Michael, because I know Michael.
He's a bad guy.
I know Michael. I've known him for 25 years.
Oh, yeah, if it's been a day.
He's going to say something to me that's not true. He believes it is the majority of Met fans.
No, I don't. You know what? I
the yo-yos?
It's much less than a loud minority. I think there's a lot of Met fans are really they're a different
because
breed.
we obviously have probably the same complex that people in Boston, Philadelphia have. It's the little brother syndrome. But I got news for all the Met fans. We're always going to be the little brother because we came last. That's just the way it works. You can't get older than the other franchise, all right? There'll be blips. Listen, the Devils won 3 straight Stanley Cups, 4 straight for the Islanders. They ain't touching the Rangers. Won 1 championship in 85 years. But doesn't matter.
But you'd have to say the Mets were the big brothers during the 80s. They were outdrawing the Yankees.
I will say this. The Mets are closer to the Yankees than any of the other little brothers are close to Big Brother. Nets aren't even on the radar, all right? Islanders and Devils can't touch the Rangers.
But you know why you are? because you took Dodger fans and Giant fans and fused them.
I said that on Friday.
The Nets came from nowhere.
Jets
the
are
Islanders
close.
came from nowhere. The Devils, they didn't fuse fan bases.
And the Jets are not going to touch the Giants. It's just the way that it works. But that's not what I'm striving to be. I'm striving to try to get a team to win the World Series. Next year is going to be the 40th anniversary of the last time this team won a World Series.
That's a long time, right?
40 years.
That's 1986, you and me.
How long?
1986 we're going back to.
So that's the thing that stinks. So I don't want to get caught up in, who said what to Yankee fans or Met fans and who owns I don't want to own the town. I just want to own the trophy they give out at the end of every year. That's what I want to own.
A piece of metal.
Yeah, that piece of tin
right.
that our commissioner says, that's what I'd like to have. That's all that should matter to anybody. That's all that should matter to the Yankees right now. Hang on the rim because some of the Met fans spoke up. But the one thing I'm not going to do is apologize for being happy they signed Juan Soto. And the other thing I'm not going to do, Michael, as disgusted as I am with this team, is feel that it's over. He's got 14 years left on his contract.
Till 2039.
Right. And
I probably will not be alive at that time.
And you know what? And Juan Soto sometimes looks lazy. And Juan Soto sometimes looks glum and disinterested. He's not the reason why they didn't win this division. And he's not the reason why they didn't make the playoffs.
Okay.
Because when he was awful, when he was struggling and he was glum, the Mets couldn't help just rattle it off with.
You're right. But when you read The Athletic today, because you're going to see a lot of these stories coming out, Juan Soto is very businesslike. He approaches each game as if it's a business proposition. Francisco Lindor is very happy-go-lucky, no laser focus like that, kind of hinting at there's a little clubhouse problem. Well, Francisco Lindor's here till 2031. They're not going anywhere. Soto till 2039. They've got to make that work.
It's the odd couple.
And I think they'll make it work. And the other thing, as much as I love Lindor and I think he's a leader, he's way too streaky. And, these numbers will all say, Alonso, great, Lindor, great, Soto, great.
Doesn't tell you the whole story.
They did not tell you the whole story. And that's where I get Stearns, is because he built a great fantasy team and he built a great analytics team, but this team had no heart. This team had no gumption when it mattered. You're going into Florida, a team that, yes, they're playing better, but it's under 500, controlling your own destiny, and you let them beat you again 2 out of 3, and then the Reds lose yesterday,
That
and
was
you get
the worst
shut
scenario.
out.
The worst scenario. If the Reds had won yesterday, you don't even go
Nothing you can do.
So where's the
There's nothing you can
analytics
do.
for that,
It was
Michael?
the worst case. Oh.
All right?
There's no analytics for that.
Now, again, Pete, he's going to be the victim because, we got to make some sort of a change or whatever. He had the hardest hit ball that any Met had all year. Would have been a gapper, would have cleared the bases. Instead, it's an out. So there were some breaks that didn't go their way either, but I'm going to let Alonso go just as I got to shake something up. The one player that I do think brings it every single night.
But the guy didn't want to sign him as a 30-year-old. He turns 31 in December. You're going to give him $40 million.
You said he was going to
one-year
be
deal.
gone because you got to change something. That's the one guy I don't want to change.
But you got to change something. You have to.
Well, why don't change something that makes the
this.
team better, not change something cosmetically.
For changes' sake.
All you guys ever tell me is how it's such a long season, so you can't overreact, right? But what you can do, though, is look at it from a macro view. Take the last 2 seasons. The last 2 seasons, they have had half of a good year and half of a really bad year in both seasons, right?
Right.
That is exactly what inconsistent's all about. You can't say, what we hear from the Yankees all the time, the best baseball's in front of them. No. They are literally that team. They are really good and really bad, but they're never just good. Right?
Well, I know.
So that means there's something internally wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot of internal problems.
And by the way, they didn't lose the playoff spot yesterday. They lost it in September with 8 straight losses. In September, when you knew the season was on the line.
Over 3.5
that
months, honestly.
can't happen when you are a team that understands where they are. And I don't want to make the comparison, but it is fair to say the Yankees went through a lull as well. But when it became winning time in September, what'd they do? Started winning. 20 games over 500. 32-12. They just started. They got over it. They faced a gauntlet of opponents. And instead of the feeling sorry for themselves or, bad luck, no, they just got it done.
But
a good team figures out a way to get it done. They are missing something inside. And because OMG and Iglesias, that was a rally cry. Yeah. That got them through it. That's a problem. That's not something you can build a franchise on.
I told you, those are the Band-Aids.
So there's a lot that needs to be fixed here. And it can't be that I fell in love with a guy and I want to keep paying him money.
I understand they don't hit with runners in scoring position. Their biggest problem is they can't pitch, period. You cannot win if you can't pitch. If you don't have anybody getting through 5 innings,
Even a good bullpen is going to be destroyed by having to get 15, 12 outs every single night. They did not have any pitchers until the kids got called up. And you want kids to try to save your season? That's
Almost
so
did.
unfair.
Do you buy into the narrative that Chris Carlin is trying to sell? That everything went haywire when I went to the Rick and Dave
I mean,
thing?
if you want to play those silly
heard that
reindeer
theory.
games,
Yeah.
honestly, if you want to play those
I
games.
don't want to play
No,
them.
no, I'm not
Reindeer
saying
games.
you.
K curse?
I'm just saying, because this is the thing that just sickens me. You want to say something that sickens me about Met fans?
Go ahead.
Is the Hawk Tua and the grimace.
There you go.
And
OMG.
all of the OMG and all the magic. Oh, Michael K came to Citi Field and we started to lose. Build a quality team. And when I say quality team, I mean a team, not a collection of stars that are going to hit for a certain average and a certain amount of home runs, but a team that's going to come together when it matters. Stop playing fantasy land of streaks and magic and voodoo, positive or negative. How about building a team? Twice in the history of this franchise, they've gone to the playoffs back-to-back years.
Don't you
Can't
think,
do
though,
it. There's
that
never
this team was
anything
better-
consistency.
When this team was put together, you didn't think they're not making the playoffs.
Of course not.
No.
Right. So,
No
I mean,
human
it's
could-
got
Well,
to
look
be
at the-
something deeper that we're not seeing.
Michael, the dirty little secret about Major League Baseball, when you take a look at the payrolls, if you got a payroll north of 300, it's criminal not to make the playoffs.
That's almost impossible.
Do you realize that the Mets, if things had broken the right way and won the tiebreak, they'd be an 83-win team. We're honoring average. There's nothing about being the third wild card team to get excited about.
There are
Even if
four-
they made the playoffs, they're still not a good team.
There are 4 franchises that spent over $300 million. 3 of them made the playoffs.
Do you also you want this one, Alan? There were 4 franchises that went hot and heavy after Juan Soto. Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, and Mets. The Mets got them. They didn't make the playoffs. Go explain baseball.
That doesn't make you're right about
because
that.
baseball is not basketball. If I've got a Juan Soto in basketball, I'm going to the playoffs.
So
Can't help but go, right?
'Cause
But
you
baseball's
out-physical
not
somebody.
that way.
But that brings back the point. And forget the hanging on the rim thing. It's a real conversation to have. Was it worth it?
Well, can we see? It's 1 year, and see, this is the stuff that bothers me,
What?
Alan. Was it worth? No. So the other 14 years, forget it. Throw them away because we
But
had
you
to win
don't-
this
but
year.
you don't know.
You had to win this year. Can we answer that
But you
question
wanted to
5,
have-
6, 7 years
Wait,
down
wait.
the stretch?
Michael will be gone.
I mean, come on,
He's gonna
man.
be dead.
No,
That's what I
seriously,
mean.
come on,
But
man.
no,
Was it worth it? He's got 14 years left on his deal, Alan.
And how many of them is he in his prime?
Oh my God!
14 years is a
I can't.
long time.
I just can't. I can't do this today.
That's
So 1 year.
Okay.
1 year
Right.
determined. Oh, that's what we're saying. That's what's all over social media. That's what everybody's saying. Yankees made the playoffs. Mets didn't. The worthless deal. A 15-year deal. It was all about the 1 year. So if the Mets can win the next 7 straight World Series, which they're not going to do, don't worry. But if they did, didn't matter because the first year they didn't win. That is so unfair.
Can I give you my take? I would sign him 1,000 times out of 1,000 times if I'm the Mets. And if I was the Yankees and I had an opportunity to undo everything, I'd sign him rather than go to Plan B, which works just
Well,
great.
because he's a great player.
He's a great player.
But you got to make other things around him. Again, it's not basketball.
Yeah.
And even when they put the super team in Miami together, they went to the final, but they didn't win their first year. Like sometimes it takes a little while for it to go. They've got other issues. You want to have a conversation about Stearns not wanting to pay pitchers. We can have that conversation because it certainly came to bite him this year. Didn't bite him last year. The acquisitions at the deadline. Going out to get a center fielder that literally can't hit. Was that smart? But we're going to make it all about Juan Soto, and now you have to say, was it worth? Really, honestly,
Just
it's
ask
an
you a question.
ignorant question.
I
It
asked
really
you-
is.
I
No,
asked you a question.
But-
It was a
no.
very simple thing. You answered it.
But the fact that you asked that question, how are we so focused on when you sign a 15-year? Now, granted,
Because
that's
of
not
where-
going to age
because of
well.
where it
It's going to
puts you.
sink, just
Right.
like Fried didn't age well. Right now, Fried was magical. The Yankees do not make the playoffs without Max Fried, but that's still an awful contract, an 8-year contract to give a 31-year-old. I think Michael would even admit that. But if they get there the first year, they win the championship. But what if they don't? What if they lose to Boston? Was it worth it? And then he can go out and win the Cy Young with Cole next year. So it gets reevaluated in 26, and then gets reevaluated in 27.
Yeah.
Well, that's my biggest problem with Stern. He doesn't pay big money for pitchers. It's what Andrew Friedman, who runs the Dodgers, once said. If you're going to be rational free agent, you're going to finish third.
Yep.
For
Right,
that
so that's
player
a
all the time.
conversation.
Well, you're dealing
you
with-
think the Yankees wanted to give Max Fried 8 years? No, they probably wanted to give him 6, like they gave Rodon. You think they wanted to give Cole 9 years? No, but That's the price of
You
doing
had
business.
to do it because you know that the immediate's more important than the long term.
And you deal with
live
the
with the
Tommy
long
John-
term.
You deal
Yes.
with the Tommy John surgery.
Right.
You miss him for a year, and then you get him back.
Right, exactly. And then, Don, sometimes you have to ask a question like that to get the answer you gave because there are people that wonder that.
Well, because again, I'm not
Somebody
going
needs
to
to
let
give
the
that
world
answer.
be run by morons.
Exactly. So you answered it perfectly. But that's why the question has to be asked because it wasn't asked. It's just being assumed. But there are actually people out there that are
because
saying,
everybody
why did the
want-
Mets do this? They should have put more into pitching and all. Because you can second guess. It's so easy to second guess. What you're not doing is that. And that's what the other thing. If you think about it, Stearns is going to take heat. Should he be fired?
No, he shouldn't be fired.
No, but there are probably people that think he should.
Well, there's some people that think that Mendoza should be fired,
Well,
Which is also ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
Well,
I mean,
'cause
it's a
that
little-
means 2 years ago or last year doesn't count.
Well, you know what? Buck
The run they went
Showalter's
on?
101 didn't count.
I don't fire either of them, but I think it's closer to a conversation with Mendoza than it is for Stearns.
Is it? What do you have to work with?
Well, when you have that talent,
You brought in a closer who didn't know how to play a role of a setup guy, and he couldn't handle it, and it messed with him. That was such a valuable piece, Hainsey, and he didn't know what to do. You moved him, and
I'm
then
not saying he
you
should
turned
be
him
fired.
into a
I'm just
setup
saying
guy.
it's more logical because when you have that kind of a colossal collapse, it sometimes comes at the expense of the manager. And it's not like he's got a pedigree. He hasn't managed forever. It's only his second year. So right now, you just said it. First year, awful in
Every
the first
button
half.
he hit right.
Basically, when you look at the 2 years of Carlos Mendoza, they've been a very average baseball.
Yeah.
Do you
it's
know
up and
the
down.
last 3 years of baseball, the Mets have one of the highest payroll, and they've averaged 82 wins a year.
Yeah, they've been a very average team. Oh,
Now,
Michael,
let me
this
ask
is
you a
fun.
question.
Yes.
Did you watch them on the big screen? I know you've got a lot of devices.
There's a lot of things going
Big
on.
screen, Giants or the Mets? Mets season on the line. Jackson Dart, maybe your future. What were you locked in on the big screen?
Great question. Finally.
I was
You had Paw Patrol on, didn't you?
no
Bluey.
Just saying.
Big
It was-
Bluey vehicle.
Big Bluey.
It was a very
Big
different.
Bluey.
Big Bluey report.
It was a tough day.
Oh,
'Cause
see, this is a good question.
No,
this is
because
the kind of
I had
question
to
you
go
need
to a
for
funeral. My Uncle Ed died. It was my
Uncle Ed.
father's best friend. That was his best man at their wedding.
Right.
And there was a can of Budweiser in the casket because
By accident, or they
no,
put
because that was the thing with my dad. We'd always have cold Budweiser in the refrigerator just in case Uncle Eddie came by because that was his best friend.
I think the
It was
mortician
a
just
big
left
thing.
it there. Just forgot.
So I could have
never
Dave
know.
Rothenberg and said, you're dead anyway. I'm going to watch the games. I went and I paid my
That was
condolences.
to honor your dad.
Right, but I had
Was there a liver problem with Uncle Ed with all the drinking? Is that why he went?
It's too soon.
You just said he drank a lot.
If it was a week,
Did I say he drank a lot, or did I say
He
that there
liked
was a
Budweiser.
but you had beer in the fridge
He
all
said-
the
Right.
time.
No, we'll see you later. Get out. Seriously.
No, 7 o'clock.
Get
Couch
the
cast.
hell out of the studio.
We'll see you at the couch
No,
cast.
I can't believe
No,
you
you
can't
on.
do
Are
that.
you really not? Are you really surprised? Are you really? Have you ever heard us talk about anything important?
I don't even want
Anything.
to look at him.
Don't look at it. But we set a new record for viewers on the YouTube though, so that's good news. But you don't look at him.
Why don't you go to break? I can't even.
You know what? We'll be right back.
He's
with more.
really mad at me? Is this
No, he can't
Wow.
even look at you.
At least he's
Rest
not
in
mad
peace,
at me.
Uncle Ed.
He's
on
not
the
mad at me
YouTube.
anymore. That's good.
We're live on the
Thoughts
Ray
and
Row.
prayers, Uncle Ed.
It's Don Hahn and Rosenberg.
Figured we'd have some fun with Michael. Listen, forget the whole Met Yankee stuff. All right, it's an embarrassment of colossal proportions. It's worse than 07. I hear people saying 07 was worse, Don, because they were going to win the division and it was harder to make the playoffs. But you got beat by a Philadelphia team that was good, and a Philadelphia team that, by the way, would go to the World Series back-to-back years after that. These are the Cincinnati Reds, and I mean no disrespect to them. Good for them. They made the playoffs. The Mets chased them down, not the other way around. And for the Mets to be able to go to, of all places, Miami, and have that team eliminate them. They didn't get eliminated by the Brewers. They didn't get eliminated by the Dodgers or the Padres. They got eliminated by an under 500 team. And the other thing that bothers me is Met fans, and Gary, Keith, and Ron, too, could be included in this, criticizing the Marlins for celebrating the win. And they were taking pictures in front of the dugout. Dude, that was their World Series because they have the lowest payroll in baseball. You don't think that's a chance for a team like the Marlins to flex? They are worthless. The players know it. They've got no chance to win. They've got literally the lowest payroll in baseball. They've been handed a gift of relevancy on the final weekend. You don't think they're going to relish the chance to beat the team that's got the second highest payroll in baseball? Give me a break. You don't have a chance to complain when you blow it the way they did. You take it. You take it. You get smacked in the face and you take it. You don't defend yourself. This team is not worth defending. We're a worthless piece of garbage organization right now. Hopefully we'll get up from it. Hopefully they'll make the right decisions. But stop complaining about the Marlins. Stop complaining about the Reds. Stop thinking you're better than you actually are. Stop worrying about the Yankees and worry about yourself. Own the town, my ass. How about owning a above 500 record and making the playoffs with the second highest payroll in baseball? Look in the mirror. The words Yankees or Marlins or baseball or Manfred or anything coming out of your mouth other than we suck, I don't want to hear it. So shut your mouth. That's what ticks me off. Those are the creeps. Oh, how come the tiebreaker is head-to-head? We should be playing. Stop. We wouldn't deserve it. You didn't deserve to make the playoffs because you couldn't beat the Marlins. One more time. And you're looking at that out-of-town scoreboard, staring at it all day. 4-2. Everybody and their mother knew that there was no shot the Brewers going to lose that game. They were not blowing that lead out, and they were not going to lose that game. The Brewers were winning that game 4-2. The only question, would the Brewers score more runs? And you sat there and got shut out.
Mm-hmm.
Shut out.
How about the Alvarez at bat, 2-on? The swings he took at those pitches looked like he had no plan.
And then the 2 times he struck out looking.
But I mean, I'm talking about that at bat was the critical at bat of the. That inning finally felt like something was going to turn, and the pitcher, by the way, I forget who wasn't throwing strikes, man. He was not throwing strikes, and he chased, and then he snaps the bat over his knee in frustration. That's the epitome of the season right there.
Disheartening.
As if you were not. Look, you want to find all different things that are wrong with the team. We all know the deal about 21 games over 500. Never mind that. Like, this tells you what they are. 34-47 on the road. They were a good home team. Terrible on the road. What does that tell you? Bad road team? That's a problem. I mean, a really bad road team. 34-47 down on the road. That's literally like your whole season gets ruined because you can't win on the road. Why can't you win on the road? What does that tell you about your team? 23-26 in one-run games. What does that tell you about your team?
They stink.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many games did they blow? How many games did they have a lead and give it away? The majority of the season, they played under 500 baseball.
And not one.
38-55 to finish the season. 38-55.
38-55.
Like, you can I credit the Marlins for treating it the way they should have. They respected the game by playing it the right way because a playoff spot was on the line. Not for them, but for other teams.
But it was a meaning.
So the right thing to do is not sit my best players and I'm just going to tank this thing away. No. We're going to do the right thing by baseball, play our best guys, and give it our best shot. And they won. 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
Which shouldn't have happened.
And the one time they did win Saturday, Clay Holmes had an outing for the
He played
ages
out of his mind.
And pitched well, and Alonso had a great game, but
after the game,
it's one thing if the Reds had won and it wouldn't have mattered anyway, but it's right there.
Yeah,
just win the damn game. Took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. Can't take 2 out of 3 from the Marlins.
And that's why, Don, I know you're fighting the idea of Pete Alonso and how, like, why are you making that? I just think you're saying change for change's sake. I would say that change for change's sake might be important right now because of what you're dealing with.
Go out and get me a better first baseman. If you want to tell me you're getting Bellinger to play first base or whoever, and he's better, I got no problem with that.
You need to get more the guys who are about more stuff about them or something. Because, again, bad road record, bad in one-run games. Think about it. That tells you there's something missing that goes beyond baseball talent. And I know Sean Manaea yesterday put a lot on himself. He said it. I was bad. He blamed himself. I was bad. Senga said, I've lost control of my body. Right? Those 2 guys took the hit, and they should, because 2 guys that were supposed to be your aces this year were garbage. They were not good. So the right guys are saying, it's on me, it's on me. But you do have to look at the entirety of the team. And while there might be talented players, maybe they're just not the right collection of players. the right combination of
Right.
players.
I think that's part of
something
it.
is missing in that clubhouse that goes beyond baseball. Because if a song and a McDonald's character and some social media chick is the reason why suddenly you have a team feels good about itself, and that's what they're grasping onto instead of, you know what, we're just good. We don't need novelties to suddenly get us on a roll.
Well, because it's all just streakiness.
But that's
and
the
it's getting
point.
hot at the right time.
So what are you
and they
missing?
got cold at the wrong time.
It's beyond baseball.
But you're not
There's
as good as you
something
think
else
you are.
Missing.
But I just don't know. If you can convince me, I'll change my mind that there's a way that they could be better without Pete Alonso at first base. Find me a better first baseman, I'm all for it. But if you're saying we just have to change something up, and that's the guy that's got to go,
Well, you can't.
Well,
There's
that's the
certain
problem.
contracts you can't change, right? There's
I
certain
know,
ones you can't
but-
move, so you're stuck doing that. You have to find. That's the hard part for David Stearns. You have to find pieces that fit better. Players that won't let you lose. How many games is that under 500 on the road? 13.
Yeah.
13 under
Well,
on the road.
and find some pitching. Maybe he's got to
Well, you might
reconfigure
have
that.
some pitching. They're young.
Right. 1-800-919-3776. Let's get to your phone calls. All right, you heard from us. Let's hear from you. 1-800-919-3776. Lamont in Fresh Meadows gets to start it off here on Don Hahn and Rosenberg.
Hi guys. How you doing?
Good.
First of all, Don, congratulations on the Devils gig.
Thank you.
I'm actually a Rangers fan, so it's going to be weird hearing your voice on the other side. But, well, you know what I'm saying.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
Anyway, I have a question. I'm a Jets, Mets, Knicks, and Rangers fan, and I like to wonder, how does the recent Mets collapse compare to the recent disappointments? Last year's Rangers, Aaron Rodgers 1 year at MetLife, or Game 1 against the Eastern Conference Finals against the Pacers? Thanks. I'll hang up.
Well, I appreciate the call, but I honestly, I don't even think it's a conversation. This is way worse than anything that's happened recently. The only thing
That Game 1 loss for the Knicks was you were already in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like that's deep. You made a run. This is you didn't even get in. This is like losing Game 82.
This is one of the worst in history of sports. It really is.
In the history of New York sports or all of sports?
Well, definitely New York sports. I mean, I don't know the statistics of. I'm sure there have been teams that. But when you,
I'm not going to tell you. Do you know the last time a team blew a 21? They were 21 games over 500 and failed to make the playoffs. Do you know when that was?
I mean, I'm sure
in baseball?
happened. It probably happened.
There's 2 times it happened
before the wild card, so it probably happened either during divisional play, probably pre-69.
No, one time was post 69. The other one was pre.
I hate the time.
1977 Cubs. Okay. Last time at 21, you were 21 over 500 and ended up losing.
All right, and
the
that
other one
when,
was the 1905 Indians.
So the 1905 Indians had to win the American League. All right,
it's harder to do.
That was it. One way to get into the World Series. That was it. No divisions, no wild card. That was it.
But
and
77 Cubs. That's
77 Cubs was at least in the division.
And at least, yeah.
But you're doing this. You're the third team in the history of baseball to do it with your division and 3 wild cards.
That's a great point.
So think about it. You've got 4 cracks at it. All right, can't win the division. All right, we got 3 cracks at a wild card. And they missed out, and the team that's going had the same record as them, but they couldn't win the season series against them. They're gone. And I'll tell you this, if they did have the ability to have a play-in today, they'd probably lose the game. Who would be pitching for them? Right? I mean, so I don't even want to hear that. Now, this is bad. The Knicks, all right, end up. You know what the pain of the Knicks loss was? That I think we underestimated the Pacers. That they were better than we thought.
They also
right?
It was we were winning this game easy, and let our foot off the gas, and this dude got hot, hit a bunch of threes, and now we let it down to
one
a
game.
Yeah, but you're right. It's one game, but you're just saying one of the worst collapses in the history of sports.
Well, think about.
That's a strong statement.
It's iconic.
But you're also
something you can hang your hat on.
You know, an uncapped sport. So you're talking about the second highest payroll in baseball.
Yeah.
All right. A team that went to the league championship series last year, added the best free agent in the sport during the offseason, and couldn't make the 3rd wild card, and blew a 5.5 game lead in the division, and were 21 games under 500 and finished 4 games over 500. I mean, tell me a worse one. All right, the Rangers fell apart. All right, you kind of saw it happening, and they weren't that good, it turned out. All right, the Mets, I understand the Rangers went to the conference final the year before, but it wasn't as bad as this. This was really bad. I can't think of anything even close to it other than the Mets themselves in 2007 blowing a 7-game lead with 17 left to play. You just can't make it up.
And it wouldn't have been now, Don. Could you have handled it better if they weren't so good the first couple months of the season? It would have been a little easier to process.
Well, but it's
the collapse part.
It's I'm not making it. Maybe it just isn't your year. They really didn't even suffer that many injuries. I mean, guys got hurt. Alvarez was out for a little while.
Sure.
But it wasn't like they were devastated by injuries. Yankees had way more injuries than the Mets did.
Yeah.
They didn't have Cole all year long. They didn't have Heel for half the season. They lost the best player in the sport for what was it, the 10-day IL. Wow.
Yeah. This is like the only thing you think of is like individual, like Greg Norman.
Right.
Yeah, just meltdowns.
Like meltdowns.
A tennis meltdown, a golf meltdown.
Yeah. Tin cup, like stuff like that. Like team meltdowns like this just don't happen. Again, 77 Cubs.
Yeah, 77 Cubs, and that was just they didn't win the division.
Yeah.
But take a look at it and see if they would have made one of the 3 wild cards that existed back then.
And you don't believe anybody should be fired, right? Like that's the thing. Because normally something like this epic tells you there's something really bad happening within the organization and changes need to be made, but you don't believe that.
And well, we do have Stearns. We're gonna throw some Stearns in during the course of the day. At 3:30, he did speak to the media. But since you brought up Mendoza's future, here's David Stearns on Mendoza.
I believe Carlos has all the same traits and assets that I believed in when we hired him 2 years ago. And I think over the course of his tenure here, he has demonstrated that. We had a tough year this year. There's no question. We are all disappointed. We are all frustrated. Mendy as much or more than anyone else. But I still believe he's a very good manager, and I think he's going to demonstrate that.
All right. Now, the only thing that can change is during the exit meetings, if all of a sudden some players are like, I'm not in love with Carlos Mendoza, then that might change. But other than that, it doesn't like Stearns has any appetite to let him go. But let's wait until the exit interviews because if you get a few important players to say, hey,
we learned that already.
We saw it with the Knicks, right? Let's go to Bob in East Norwich. You're on ESPN New York. Hi, Bob.
How you doing, guys? I love the show.
Thanks, buddy, man. What do you got?
This was such a disappointing season. I think a big problem was the Mets played over their head in the beginning of the year, and it made it difficult to identify what they needed at the deadline. I think their main problem I want to see them address in the offseason is pitching. What do you guys think?
Well, there's no question it's pitching, but it's interesting when you said that they didn't identify what they needed. They knew they needed bullpen.
Yeah.
And they went out and got bullpen help, and none of them worked. I mean,
it's amazing.
Obviously, some of them worse than others, but and a starting pitcher. The thing is, what starting pitcher could they have gotten that they didn't get? Right? Alcantara never got traded. I'd have to look back at the deadline. Was there a starting pitcher that made an impact? Did Bieber make an impact? I don't know. I think they knew what was wrong with the team. None of the pivots worked. None of the deals worked. Mullins, I was all for. I thought that was a good pickup. Center field, a little pop. He did nothing. Nothing. It was troubling how bad the deadline ended up being for Stearns. We didn't think it at the time. We thought the moves were good, but they didn't work out.
On paper, they looked fantastic, but it did not work out. And they had to go bullpen because they taxed it so much in the first half because none of the starters could get out of the fourth, fifth inning.
Rico in Buffalo, you're on ESPN New York.
Don, you broke my heart today, buddy.
Oh, no. How?
Yeah, I've been listening to you and Michael together for... Don, I'm 70 years old, so how many years were you and Michael together on the radio?
22 years.
30? Whatever? Okay. And Michael has always supported you, backed you, and stood by your side his entire career, and I listened to all of your shows.
Okay.
And then for you to rant on him and disrespect him,
I'll do whatever I want, Rico. And I'm getting tired of Rico on the air. Please, please screen it.
Well, why? This is compelling to me, Don.
Oh, no, you think it's compelling because I gotta talk to the yo-yo. You get to sit there and laugh behind the scenes. Meanwhile, first of all, it was completely performative. Get a sense of humor. And the other thing, he suggested my dead uncle's a lush. He's lucky he didn't get punched in the face. Back on whatever station we're on, who cares?
It's the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. And we join you as we conclude game 162 of the regular season in Major League Baseball. And we know what that means. It means we're going to recap, okay? And one of them will not be a happy recap, as they used to say in the old days. Now, before I get to that, let me get some business out of the way. Bet Rivers Football Squares. Players who place a qualifying same game a parlay of at least $10 on any eligible NFL and NCAA football game will receive one standard entry into the weekly football squares. You can get 2, you can get 3, 4. It's a fun way to play along. Winning standard squares will be awarded a prize of $20 bonus bet. See app and website for more details. And remember, you can sign up free for the Mike Francesa newsletter. You get all different things. Go to MikeFrancesa'Podcast.com, sign up, and it is all free. All right, let's do the easy one first. The Yankees went into today, and I'll get to them in their matchup after I finish with the Mets. The Yankees went into today knowing they needed Toronto to lose. I did not think Toronto would lose. I told people, Yankee fans who texted me yesterday, and different people, I did not think Toronto would lose. I thought Toronto would win. I didn't know if the Yankees would win or not. I didn't think it would matter. I thought what if they blow the game open? They blew the game open, and the Yankees still came from behind. Well, 2-2, won the game, used their relievers, and maybe it was important for them to finish the season with another victory. The Yankees won 8 in a row to end the season. They won 11 of their last 13. I use that, Mark, because their last 13 games, as I stressed to you, were against losing teams. Now, the Yankees are puffing out their chests now, and everyone, the Yankees found their stride, and they hit it great, and they're pitching great, and they're doing everything great. The Yankees, in their last 13 games, did not play a winning team. They played all losing teams. This team beat up on bad teams and did not beat good teams. I still question this team against good teams going into the playoffs, but we'll get to that and the Red Sox in a minute and the matchups. First, the Mets came into today needing a very good Milwaukee team to care enough to beat a Cincinnati team that has been hauled along by a pretty good pitching staff and a brilliant manager. They were 6 games behind the Mets, I think, on Labor Day, either 5 or 6. They had to win a lot of games. They really won this when they swept the Cubs 4 straight. They didn't win today against Milwaukee. They did beat Milwaukee the first 2 games of the series. But if they lost today, it opened the door for the Mets. And what did the Mets do with that? They did exactly what you knew the Mets would do. And when you looked at the schedule, I told you a month ago, hey, Mets finish with the Marlins. You know what that can mean. You know what it has meant historically. You know what the Marlins will try to do. And the Marlins today, after blanking the Mets, who ended their season on a double play by Lindor, okay, and apropos, that's the way it ended, with their big guns waiting on deck, with Alvarez breaking the bat across his knee in the 8th inning after swinging at ball 4, that would have loaded the bases. The Mets could not manage a run against the Marlins today with their playoffs, with an entrance to the playoffs on the line. And what it did, it culminated one of the really gutless performances, and this takes in a lot of ground, one of the real gutless performances in Met history. And when you realize how the Mets were built, when you think back to the ceremonial arrival of Juan Soto and everything that meant, the owner demanding loyalty and that the fan base goes into its pocket. And they did. And they responded with enormous crowds all summer. And this team just did a slow, gutless dissolve over 3.5 painful months. The Mets were 21 games over 500 early in the season. They were the best team in baseball 2.5 months into the season. Yeah, they were pitching over their heads. But everyone knew this team had talent. No one could fathom this team wasn't built for October. And the owner, hey, he did what you thought he would do. He went and stole Juan Soto from the Yankees. He did exactly what you've dreamt about your whole life. He never blinked when it came to doing something economically. And your brain trust, your baseball brain trust, led by Stearns, remember, he is there to evaluate where his team is. And what he evaluated, listen, he went out and no one can kill him for bringing in a top reliever who could not handle setting up in front of Diaz. All right. Everybody liked the move of bringing him in. He was a major arm with major talent. No one expected him to be that bad. But there is no way to forgive Stearns for ignoring the issues that he had in the starting rotation, not only at the start of the season, but when he saw what was happening to his team during the season. He did a terrible job. He's front and center on this. So is the manager, who, let's say, he's a good guy and he's a good baseball man. And I don't think he's going anywhere, nor do I think he should go anywhere. But he had no clue what to do with this team and to do with this bullpen and to do with this team day in and day out. The pieces didn't fit. This team never connected like last year's team. Last year's team had an amazing chemistry and an amazing resilience. This team had none of that. Zero. The pieces never fit. It was almost like Soto and whomever were never comfortable. I'm not knocking Soto's year, but everything didn't work. Does Lindor have numbers? Yes. Does Soto have numbers? Yes. Does Alonso have numbers? Yes. And Alonso had a terrific year. And let me say this about Alonso. I don't know if we just saw him play his last game as a Met or not. I don't know what the future is going to hold for him. But I will tell you this. He's a hell of a baseball player. He cares. He shows up every day. He's a terrific teammate. He battled to the end. He got a hit in his last at bat, and he's yelling, "Let's go," to the dugout as he goes to first base. This guy is a gamer. He answered every critic. From the big home run he hit last year right through every at-bat of this year, when he was treated terribly in the offseason, he responded in a huge way. If the Mets don't want him, somebody's going to get a really good baseball player. A really, really good baseball player. And a good teammate. And I think a winning player. But let's be honest. What this Met team did to have this collection of players together and not make the playoffs after their start, and to not make the playoffs in this expanded joke in terms of baseball playoff expansion. Joke. Okay? Listen, I understand the economics of the postseason now in all sports. We all do. We understand how the game is played now. We understand what the regular season is. And more, even in a series and in a sport where you play 162 regular season games, it has become much more of a setup than it ever was. Because now it is October that dictates in baseball. But you have to get there. And we all thought, and listen, I'm at the top of the list. Did I think the Mets will make the playoffs? I never thought they'd win the division for months now, but I never thought they wouldn't make the playoffs. I never thought they would be this gutless. I never thought that they would not figure it out to this extent. I never thought their pitching would dissolve as badly as it did, but not just their pitching. They were a top-heavy lineup all year. They became a bad defensive team. They became a bad situational team, and they became a bunch of gutless bums. That's what they were down the stretch. There's no other way to categorize it. That team has way, way too much talent. You want to look at their lineup or their roster against the Cincinnati Reds? Hey, the Cincinnati Reds they got a couple of young, good arms. But what they had was they had a cohesiveness and a toughness that was basically put into them by a manager who is as gifted as any manager of the last generation. It is amazing what he's able to breathe into a team. And I'm sure the Reds aren't going to hang around very long. Going to play the Dodgers, not going to be any fun. We know that. Dodgers have big plans. They're getting better. They're getting healthier. They're finding their stride. Just like it looks like the Yankees are. But I would be cautious. Well, I'll get to the Yankees in a minute, but I'd still be cautious about them. Some things still worry me about them. To me, they're still the bully bunch they've been all year. And yeah, they beat the bad teams they always have. That's why those last 13 games, and they almost won all of them. They went 11-2, 8 in a row to finish the season. And it still didn't yield them a division title. I didn't think it would. I think they spotted them too many games, and it turned out to be the tiebreaker. That was the difference. Toronto righted the ship in time to hold the Yankees off. Now the Yankees will meet a familiar foe Tuesday night, and I understand. That it's the Red Sox, and that's always a scary proposition. But to me, you know what? When you look at it, we know the Yankees, if they play well, are better than most of these teams. If they play well against teams that are good. Now, the Red Sox match up pretty well against them, but I'll get to that. I want to get back to the Mets for a second. Because I don't think the Mets ran a really weird curve this year. Their fans were so bolstered by Soto leaving the Yankees for the Mets and what that signified for their franchise. And then the idea, the silliness of the season as to, who is the team in town, who is the player in town. That's all answered at the end of the season. It's not answered in the beginning of the season. It's not answered during the season. It's answered now. That's when it's answered. And the Mets aren't even going to take part. The fact that they are not in this postseason competition with that team, with that talent, is an utter disgrace. And those players better take a long, hard look. And I'm sure this owner was going to get a little cranky here. But hey, he's too smart a guy to do the impetuous thing. So I don't expect any craziness out of him. I know some people think heads are going to roll. I don't know that that's going to happen. Will it make him more aggressive? I think so. The bottom line is this is not the time to look at what the Mets have going forward. It's about answering the question of why this group was such a gutless collection of underachievers. And this didn't play out over a week or 2 weeks. This wasn't a team that just hit the skids late. This was a slow drip that started in late June and never, ever got solved. This was something they saw coming in July. Drip, drip. August, drip, drip. September, more of the same. It was there week after week, game after game, when things never, ever got back to where they needed to be. They played 38 and 55. 38 and 55 in their last 93 ball games. That's almost 2/3 of the season. After a terrific first, till June 13th, first 2.5 months, 21 games over 500 to finish 4 games over 500 and play 17 games under 500 from June 13th, the 5th worst record in the sport. When you realize that in that group are the Rockies, who lost 119 games, and the White Sox, who lost over 100 games. So you're talking about those two shouldn't even count. So that means they were among the 3 worst teams of what you would consider to be somewhat competitive teams in baseball. With that payroll, with those expectations, with that lineup, everybody should be looking in the mirror. Now, I just watched the manager talk, and he said the things you would expect him to say, and took the blame and said he has a lot of examining to do. And listen, I expect him to do all that. He's a stand-up guy. He's a solid baseball guy. He's a stand-up guy. Did he do a good job? No. Because he couldn't figure out how to plug these leaks, and they couldn't figure out how to plug these leaks. And they wound up taking a pitching staff and watching it completely disintegrate to where the starters were so ineffective they ruined whatever you had in the bullpen. And then you tried to rely on a bunch of kids to take you home. It was really a ridiculous plan. And it didn't work. This is such a colossal failure. This is one of the great, colossal, gutless collapses that we have seen from a team with talent in a very long time. There are bad teams. That's not them. They aren't a bad team. They're a gutless bunch of underachievers. That's what they are. Gutless to the core as a group. They should be ashamed of themselves. I understand that this is part of being a Met fan. Just like it's the same old Jets all the time, and we always hear the same stories and everything else. The bottom line is, you thought that this team, with this owner, with their resources, with their plans, were not going to fall back into these kinds of performances anymore. You know what? Despite all of Cohen's money, despite all of his bravado and all the little bells and whistles around Citi Field, and all the different things that the Mets have put forth, including their astronomical payroll, still the Mets. They're still the Mets, and that's not good enough.
Buckle up, Buttercup. It's Shine On Sports with Adam Schein.
Oh, how are you? I'm having a good day. How's Juan Soto doing? You want to come over, have a watch party for the postseason? We could organize a little watch party. Because Juan signed with the Mets and told America and Canada, New York, better family situation going to the Mets, and obviously better chance of winning a World Series. So I would tell you that I don't like to toot my own horn, but that would be a lie. I do tell you when I'm right. I do tell you when I'm wrong. But I got all your tweets. We have nonstop Reds and Mets calls lined up, which we're going to take in a matter of seconds.
this was the prediction. This was always the prediction. Reds make the playoffs preseason. Mets don't. Oh, Adam, it's because of Juan Soto. This is sour grapes. No, it's because the New York Mets failed Juan Soto and their amazing fans. The Mets fans deserve so much more than this. The Mets fans deserved a team and an organization that if you're going to go out and spend on Juan Soto, you make sure you have the requisite starting pitching. And the Mets pitching was absolutely positively deplorable. And even when the Mets, and you know I said this, had the best record in baseball at points during the season, I said they're not going to make the playoffs. Now, they collapsed in inexplicable fashion, and even though I was right, I think the way they lost was worse than even I imagined. Let's be clear about this. The fact that you can't beat the Marlins, all these bad losses, rolling out, the theater of the absurd clown show on the mounds, Gary Cohen and Keith Hernandez and Ron Darling on the award-winning SNY broadcast murdered and destroyed all August and September long, the lack of fundies for this baseball team. I mean, it's like a bad Little League squad out there. The Mets had no hearts. 0-67 when trailing after 8 innings. The only team to not have a single win in that scenario this year. 0-67. They had the best record in baseball through June 12th. The 5th worst record after that. In the National League, only the Rockies, who arguably had the worst season in baseball history, and there are stats and facts that back that up, only the Rockies and Nationals had more losses since June 12th. This is the 4th time in 28 years the Mets were eliminated on the final day of the regular season. 3 of those came at the hands of the Marlins. My God. Pete Alonso said right after the game, I'm opt out. That's all for me. I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. And the Reds, did you see that celebration in the dugout? They were dancing all over the place. I couldn't get enough. Absolutely could not get enough. Wild stuff. Unbelievable turn of events. Reds did not exactly dazzle down the stretch, losing a series to the Pirates, getting swept by the Manfred A's. But they're in, and the Mets are home. What a disgrace. Complete and utter top-to-bottom disgrace from the New York Mets. And those Mets, man, what an absolutely pathetic, gutless puke of a performance. Doug in Florida, our good friend. Next on Sports.
Well, great to talk to you. I talked to you last time right after Dave Parker passed, and we talked Reds and Mets a little bit in that conversation, and I told your call screener, look, Schein, after that second game losing streak of the Mets back in like mid-August, I'm listening, and Schein said, the Reds are going to take this. I'm telling you, they're going to take this wild card over the Mets. And I followed it ever since, and then in September they had another 7-game streak, and the Reds were 6 out, and that got them within a game. And the Reds had their first 5-game winning streak last week ever after sweeping the Cubs, and that got them tied basically. And I was like, Schein called it, but I wanted to bring a good point about this playoffs. Don't put the Reds out. My first home game or playoff game ever was a '73 Tom Seaver in Cincinnati against a Big Red Machine. They were 83-79, the exact same record that the Reds have this year. And it was a different format, obviously. You win the division you're in, and it's one series and then the World Series.
Look, I give the Reds a shot because they have the pitching and a championship manager. And Ellie De La Cruz is obviously a built-for-primetime player. And I think they're almost too young to understand playoff pressure. Now, talent-wise, location-wise, even with the Reds' strong pitching matchup-wise, Dodgers' pitching is superior. Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani, right? It's better. You trust their talent and experience. Dave Roberts, championship, Ohtani, Freeman, Mookie, all the role players. The Reds clearly will have a quote-unquote shot because of the pitching and Francona and Ellie, but it's not even close here in terms of which team is better. But, hey, it's best 2 out of 3. And obviously, and I love that it's no longer the wild card for 9 innings. Finally, Manfred nailed it. I think that adds to the drama of the regular season and the postseason. You know, I think Cincinnati will have a shot to make it interesting, but look, it's no disrespect to Cincinnati. Wide open postseason, anything can happen. We'll make our picks tomorrow. You could miss on every single playoff round, every single playoff series. Like that's not out of the realm of possibility here. But I will pick the Dodgers to win every single series they play and ultimately win the World Series this year. Absolutely nailed it. I feel bad for the Mets fans. You guys have been through hell and back. You deserve so much more, so much better. And even though I didn't pick them to make the playoffs, obviously, team is a total mess. David in Los Angeles, our good friend. Next, on Sports.
Hey, good morning, Adam. Always great to talk to you. Thanks for taking my call.
What's up, Dave?
All right, a couple of baseball thoughts here. I mean, first of all, you called it on the Mets, and I had the same thoughts. You know, the Mets, historically, they do this to us all the time. They give us one deep playoff run every once in a while, and then for the next couple of seasons, they just disappoint like no one's ever disappointed before. So, you know, when the collapse started, I'm thinking, all right, there's a good chance they're going to get caught, and lo and behold, they did get caught by the Reds. Even at the very end when they were both making that push, I mean, the Mets just ended up disappointing. Secondly, I want to salute the career of Clayton Kershaw. Yes. 18 seasons with my Dodgers. It's so fitting that he goes out on a strikeout at the very end yesterday in Seattle. I mean, to get, I think 3,052 strikeouts in his career, to end 18 seasons with one team, he's a no-doubt Hall of Famer. No one of the Dodgers can wear 22 again. I know the postseason record's not there for him, but there's no denying his greatness in terms of Dodger history, in terms of baseball history.
Well,
I mean, salute to the man.
He's one of the best pitchers in the history of the game. I love that yesterday. He's not going to be on the roster for at least the wild card round. We'll see what happens the rest of the way. Snell, Yamamoto, and Ohtani for the Dodgers in their rotation. Obviously, you can't quibble with that in any way, shape, or form. But yes, that's my goats. That's my guy, Clayton Kershaw, as we've documented for so many shows and for so often during the 21-year history of Schein on Sports. So I echo that sentiment completely. More of your outstanding telephone calls right after this. The baseball has been incredible today. I'm thinking of inviting Juan Soto to my house for a playoff watch party. Listen. This was the easiest prediction in the 21-year history of Schein on Sports. And we've had so many Mets fans who have flooded the phone lines today, Reds fans who have flooded the phone lines, thanking me for my confidence, picking Cincy before the season started to make the playoffs, not picking the Mets. Every single turn I've said, absolutely, we are going to see the Mets miss the playoffs and the Reds make it. Came down to the final game of the season. The Mets can't beat the Marlins. You know, the fundamentals for the Mets are atrocious. The Reds celebrating, partying. They're having a lot of fun. Good, young, fun team. Well-managed team, but obviously not a great team. Reds didn't exactly dazzle down the stretch. They lost a series to Pittsburgh, got swept by the pathetic Nomad A's. But the Mets have no pitching. It's one of the biggest collapses in baseball history. And even with my take, and I said it consistently, callers have called and said, you nailed it. You nailed it in the preseason. You nailed it at the trade deadline. You nailed it in August. You nailed it in September. Even with my prediction, this is a disaster. Like, don't let me being right confuse the level of disaster. The New York Mets were 0-67 when trailing after 8 innings. The only team not to have a single win in that scenario. The New York Mets had the best record in baseball through June 12th, right? They deserve credit for that. And I thought they'd fade, and I said as much. They had the 5th worst record after that. I never would have predicted that. And they were fundamentally unsound, impossible to watch. Starting pitching was atrocious. I mean, they consistently just would have the theater of the absurd in terms of how they run the bases, how they field their positions. Only the Rockies, arguably the worst team in baseball history this year, 2025 Colorado Rockies, and the Nationals had more losses in the National League since June 12th. I mean, as soul-sucking a season, as big a disaster as you could find. I feel bad for the Mets fans. I really do. I mean, you signed Juan Soto. You didn't, in any way, shape, or form, address the rotation. When Clay Holmes is your opening day starter, it's a recipe for disaster. And we were 1,000% 1,000% correct on that.
And then, of course, the Mets, complete collapse from first place to out of the playoffs. They lose to the Marlins. Tough. Guys, really tough. Carlos Mendoza was talking about taking ownership of the results after the loss. Let's take a listen.
The whole year, I kept saying, we got the talent, and here we are going home. I take responsibility. I'm the manager. It starts with me, and I got to take a long look here. How I need to get better. And then that was a message into the whole team as well. Like this is unacceptable.
888 Mad Dog 6. Is that enough for you? Is that what you needed to hear, Mets fans? Did that make you feel good? You going out of here going like, yeah, okay, that's great. Other news, Pete Alonso is opting out of his contract and will re-enter free agency. So I'm really sorry to kick you while you guys are down there, but we'll see what happens on that. Keep an eye on the polar bear.
Wanted to say this real quick about the New York Mets. What a collapse. What an epic collapse. Now, I won't mention his name, but I got security here, but I won't mention his name because you don't want to expose how big, powerful men are reduced to tears when their team stinks, when they just play like trash when it counts most. You see the most powerful, vibrant individuals reduced to mush. And that's what, my security, he's that dude, except for when it comes to the Mets. He just goes into hiding. He can't take it. Then he comes up with, stuff like, what, your Yankees will only be playing a couple of more days than us. Well, damn it, they're in the playoffs and you're not. And that's usually the narrative that we're saying about the New York Mets, and that's where we are again. Ladies and gentlemen, in June, they were 45-24 with the best record in the major leagues and the best ERA. And since then, they went like 38-55. They were the fifth worst team in Major League Baseball with a horrible ERA double, over 5.27 or something like that. I don't recall ever seeing a pitching staff, an entire pitching staff that couldn't get out of the third inning. They were just awful. And that's why they're home. They had a 10-game lead over the Cincinnati Reds for a playoff spot, and they lost it. What a collapse. So it's just really, really bad. What can you say? You didn't expect that from the Mets, but that's what they gave you. My Yankees are in again, and I'm feeling good because I think the Yankees got a chance because they got pitching for a change, even though the Red Sox have had their ways with the Yankees, and who knows what that's going to materialize into. We shall see.
And let's spend a few minutes here on the Mets. The idea, and I love them to death, but the idea that Chris Christie told me last week that it would be, quote-unquote, disappointing if the Mets didn't make the playoffs. What the Mets did in 2025, and that's the story of the day in baseball. We'll get to the matchups in a minute. But what the Mets did in 2025, after they spent $785 million on Soto, it tells you how much unnecessary it is to go spend go ask the Brewers if it's necessary to go spend that kind of money on a player. Go ask the Guardians that. But the fact that they went out there and they gave Soto $800 million. Now he did his part, but it had no effect at all as far as the goodness of the team is concerned. And for the Mets to be 45 and whatever they were they 19? I think it was 45 and 24. They were 45 and 24. I think they were 21 over. For the Mets to be that way on June 13th with a 5.5 game lead, and then be in a situation at the end of the year where they get shut out by the Miami Marlins, losing 5 out of 7 to them down the stretch, lose 2 out of 3 this weekend, have the Brewers do them the biggest favor of all time by beating the Reds yesterday 4-2, and that score is on the scoreboard all day, and you can't go out there and score a run against the Miami Marlins? What? I mean, when you have Lindor and Alonso and Nimmo and Soto and Diaz and have a $360 million payroll, and the Reds' payroll barely cracks 100. And don't tell me it's not about payroll, because people who say that don't know their asses from the elbow. Of course, it's about payroll. When you have that kind of payroll, you got to win. And this is not football, whether it's or the NBA. This baseball. You got the Dodgers make the playoffs, the Yankees make the playoffs, the Red Sox make the playoffs. Toronto's got a big payroll. They made the playoffs. The Cubs' payroll's high. They made the playoffs. San Diego's got a big payroll. They made the playoffs unless you're in the right division where you can get away with it in the NL or the American League Centrals like the Guardians, which they can. If you don't have a big payroll, you got to make the postseason. That is all there is to it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to make it. And the Mets, for what they did this year, think about it. The Mets won 83 games. They let the Cincinnati Reds in an expanded postseason make the postseason over them. And the Reds, haven't won a playoff game in about 2 decades. This is not the Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench, Tony Perez, and Pete Rose Reds. They met the Cincinnati Reds get into the postseason, having them beat the Mets 4 out of 6, having them go 13-8 in the last 21, which is even that great. And the Mets sat there, and they were 6 games ahead of Cincinnati in September, won, and they blew this. That is an absolute unmitigated disaster. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. The owner just told you that with his tweet 5 seconds ago. I mean, that is, you can't defend it under any circumstances. And it just goes to show you that how much money you spend and bringing in a new toy every year means nothing. Do you think Soto right now would rather be in the Yankees, who won 94 games, albeit a very easy, or 94, although a very easy schedule down the stretch, which is, amplified that record. But still, the Yankees are in the postseason. Soto basically thought when he left that, I feel more confident in the Mets' future than the Yankees' future. That asinine statement when the Mets have never proved that they are a consistently good team on a year-in, year-out basis. Say what you want about the Yankees. The Yankees are in a postseason every year. The Mets make it every 5,000, and they make it every blue moon. The Mets make the playoffs. This year, another case in point. But how in the world freaking can Soto leave the Yankees, and tell us the reason why he left is because, I like the Met future better than the Yankee future. Where is the evidence of that? And so what happens here? What does he do? He has a great year. Lousy early, but he has a big year. Good finish, 40-something home runs. Hit better with runners in scoring position second half of the year, and his team can't get out of its own way and loses 2 out of 3 to Washington twice. The only teams the Mets had a better record than since June 15th, you know what they are? The Rockies, the Twins. The Rockies and the Twins, for crying out loud. And one other. I think, and the Nationals. I think that's that's the only teams the Mets had a better record than in the last 3 months of the season. And the Mets have a $350 million payroll, more if you count the luxury tax money they're spending. And for you to sit there, anybody out there to think that payroll's got nothing to do with it is absurd. If you spend $100 million and you don't make the playoffs, you're going to live with it. You know what? I get what I paid for. If the Reds didn't make it, anybody in Cincinnati is going to scream? The Met payroll, which is, by the way, thrown to the Met fan, parking, tickets, beer, a hot dog, you name it. They got the highest ticket prices in the world, the Mets. And for that, and one of the reasons why they do is because the Mets have a high payroll. So one leads to the other. Well, maybe the Mets should try a little lower payroll next time around. And listen, they fired Buck Showalter off this kind of year. Buck won 101 games, lost at the end to the Braves the last weekend of the year, and then got beat by San Diego. And then the next year he was bad. Well, last year Mendoza basically did the same thing that Buck did last year, and then this year it was a far worse collapse. Why? Because, in fact, we hate Buck. Everybody in the organization can't stand him. Everybody loves Mendoza because he does what David Stearns tells him to do. How does Mendoza take out freaking Mania yesterday after 5 outs? I understand Mania's not Jerry Kuzman, but gee whiz, how do you take him out of the game? They have no bullpen as it is. There's no score bottom of the second inning, 2 outs and 2 on after a couple of walks, and he runs to his bullpen? I mean, you must be kidding me. Come on. Have a clue. Have a feel of the game. When you do that, you're telling your team how nervous you are. When you take your starting pitcher out that early in a game that you have to have, that kind of nervousness rubs down your team. Geez, this is a big game. Look at that. He bailed on our pitcher 5 outs in. Now you get extra tense. What message are you sending? Oh, my God. What a mess for the Mets now. And here, but one other thing. This is a franchise that spent basically a week extolling the greatness of Pete Alonso. that asinine, stupid, ridiculous 253rd home run that nobody who's a serious Met fan, and I speak to all of them, gave a crap about. And the Mets show up in your seat the next day at 6:30 for a special presentation for the great Pete Alonso. 253 home runs. And how does Alonso award them with that? The game is 5 seconds over. Yeah, I'm opting out. Yeah, I'm opting out. The game, the body isn't even dead yet. It's not cold. It's not cold. And he says he's opting out. If the Mets went out of their way kissing his ass about that ridiculous, stupid home run that nobody cared about, except a Met fan. Yeah, I'll ask a Met fan this. Would you rather have him not hit the home run and be in the playoffs and have a game tomorrow night? Or would you rather have him hit the home run and today getting destroyed by every Met fan in America? Which one you want? Which one? And I'm not saying that Mendoza should be fired, and I'm not saying Stern should be fired. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that this was an absolute, complete, utter disgrace. It wasn't, quote unquote, disappointing. That's not disappointing, okay? You know what would be disappointing? I'll give you a disappointing. That the Padres did not win the division. That's disappointing. That they let the Dodgers win the NL West again. That would be considered disappointing. That the Yankees lost the season series to Toronto and end up having to play in a wild card round instead of getting a week off. That's disappointing. That's what I use the word disappointing. When you have this payroll and you have this collapse and you fall apart to the Marlins, to the Nationals, to the Reds, and are sitting there basically doing nothing today, that's more than the word disappointing. And I give Gary Cohen credit. And I understand Gary was, that polar bear home run was a joke. That call was terrible. We know that. He'd never talk to me again, but I don't care. I was right. That was a horrendous call. But Gary yesterday, give him credit. And he's paid by the Mets, and he went out there at the end of that broadcast in which they got killed. At the end of the night, he said, listen, this is an absolute utter disgrace. They have a huge payroll, and they have more teams in the playoffs than they used to have, and they still didn't get in. And then the freaking Brewers do the Mets a favor, and they can't score a run in the last game of the year. I mean, you can't make it up. And everybody killing the Yankees, including Soto. Well, here's what I would tell Soto. Well, I have more faith in this guy than that guy. The Yankees have a game tomorrow night, and you don't. 13 after the hour, we continue. Mad Dog Unleashed.
It's Mad Dog Unleashed on Mad Dog Sports Radio.
My God, every time you turn around, well, this is the greatest historical team. No, it's not. Football did not start 10 years ago. Okay, they've been playing football since 1920.
Sirius XM 82.
If any Met fan is annoyed that the Marlins are celebrating, and the broadcast booth appeared to be celebrating in front of their dugout after they knocked the Mets out, a team that won 80 games, tough. The Marlins told you all weekend that this was their World Series, that they wanted to beat the Mets and knock them out in the worst way. You know what the Marlins did? They did what they said they were going to do. That's what they did. These are the Marlins with an $80 million payroll and even less, $70 million payroll, a team that nobody cares about. Not even the fan base cares about them. The place was full of Met fans. And if the Marlins sit there and want to celebrate the fact that they beat the Mets 6-2 and 4-0 and buried them and sent them packing for the 2025 season, they have every right to. Take more pictures. Take pictures in front of the visiting dugout. Take as many pictures as you want. They've earned it. Because the Marlins do what they can to have a successful season of players, that is, under very dire circumstances. It's not a great ballpark. It's a horrendous baseball town. The ownership has not basically been behind the team, fire managers left and right and everything else. And this idea, by the way, that they call the balls and strikes to the catcher is mind-bogglingly ridiculous. The idea that if you're a catcher on the Marlins, you got to look in the dugout to get the sign every game. How is the guy supposed to be any good? How is he supposed to develop as a catcher when you won't let him call the game? And the dugout makes all the pitching decisions with balls and strikes. I mean, that is ridiculous. That is so. Oh, God, I would never want to play for that team under those circumstances. That I, as a young catcher, for a team that never wins, that want to develop and learn how to form a game, Johnny Bench in his grave would be freaking turning over with that. It's mind-boggling. But having said all that, I wanted to get that out too. Having said all that, give the Marlins credit. Those players never have the support. The ownership has not given them support over the years. The fan base doesn't. The ballpark, nothing. They're an outsider looking in, and they said for a month that they wanted to knock the Mets the hell out of town. And you know what they did? They beat them 5 out of 7. They can put billboards up on Times Square. They have every right to. Every right to do what they want. They want to gloat about beating the Mets despite their record. Good for them. You know why? Because they told you that that's what they wanted to do, that this was their World Series. And then they went out and did it. Good for them. $68 million payroll. So they beat the Mets 5 out of 7 the last 2 months of the season to knock them into the golf course, knock them on a golf course with a $68 million payroll, told everybody they were going to do it, and then did it. That's baseball. That's baseball.
One of them makes $17 million. Think about that.
And the same guy, Steve Cohen, that you went nuts about over some asinine, ridiculous, stupid home run that no Met fan in America cares about, that's a real Met fan, that, be there the next day, a half hour beforehand as we celebrate Pete Alonso. The same guy that you went overboard going crazy about back in whenever it was, in the middle of the summertime, maybe early August, that same guy, the body ain't cold. Yeah, I'm opting out. I'm opting out. That same guy. There you go. Let's continue. I'm feisty today, boy. Put this show in a capsule and put it in some lake and let some fan 100 years from now listen to it. Here is Vinny in Brooklyn. Vinny, good afternoon. How are you? Vinny, shoot. What's on your mind?
Say something funny, Chris.
Say something funny. Well, you're the Met fan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm devastated, Chris. I'm obviously devastated. This is worse than 07 and 08. It's not even close. Now, you ever notice when the Mets, have a good year and make the playoffs, it's a miracle. No one expected it. And then the next season, that creates expectations, and they never fulfill them.
That's a good point.
Ever.
The Mets are much better going back to 1969. The only year they did fulfill it was 86. The Mets are much better being an under-the-radar kind of team that comes out of nowhere, like last year to a certain degree, than they are a team where you expect great things. And this team, adding Soto to a team that came within a couple of games of going to the World Series, is a colossal bust. And one more time for Soto, who went out of his way saying that he liked the Mets' future more than a Yankee future. One of the dumbest things based on history I've ever heard anybody utter. He was trying to get away from the money that he was going to make, because we all know he came for the money. How does he think now when the Yankees are going to be rolling and rocking them all out at Yankee Stadium in front of 55,000 on ESPN, and the Mets, nothing. Garbage bags in the clubhouse, cleaning out their lockers. Go ahead. Next.
Now, 2 more things. They better re-sign Alonso. Number 2, the other 3 teams that pursued Soto are all playing tomorrow. The one that got him isn't.
Who's the other one? Toronto,
the Red Sox, and the Yankees.
That's a good point. And that's not knocking Soto, but that's fact. It's fact. The owner wanted to have a Rembrandt in his bathroom, spent $800 million to get that Rembrandt, to make sure. And 10 months later, the Mets are a colossal bust. No fault of his, but a colossal bust. It's not, quote unquote, disappointing. Here's Mel in New York. Mel, good afternoon. How are you? Mel, shoot.
Good afternoon, Mike and the Mad Dog. How you doing?
All right,
Mike,
Mel.
I love your show.
A long time ago, the Mike and Mad Dog.
I used
But go
to listen to you
ahead.
when you were on the Mad Dog show. I love you and Stephen A.
Okay, that's good.
I'm a very disappointed Mets fan.
I got you. Go ahead.
Big colossal mistake. I hope Pete Alonso leave the Mets because they did him bad last year with the contract. They gave all that money to Juan Soto, and here where they are now out playing golf. I hope he leave. I have no qualms with him leaving the Mets. And I'm glad he said that after the game, that, he's opting out of his contract because they did him bad.
Yeah, I listen, I don't have
Diaz. They managed to lose all those games to the Reds.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Diaz handled it right. I want to stay here. I got to talk to my family. There's a time and a place. And Alonso is not the brightest bulb in the room anyway. This is the same guy that was basically trolling Darryl Strawberry with the down goes straw on that stupid bat, which was the dumbest thing that you could ever do. And yes, he tops it off. And he had a great year. And he had to hit the ball 150 miles an hour yesterday, and that ball that really could have been a double, which would have changed maybe in the fifth inning the complexion of the game. So I'm not knocking his performance. I am knocking his timing. I'm knocking that asinine 253rd home run. And I'm knocking the idea that, paying a guy like that is going to make your team good. Go ask the Guardians. Go ask the Brewers. Go ask the Reds if that works. Those three teams, again, they have upcoming games. The Mets don't. Here's Claudio in New Jersey. Hershey, PA, I'm sorry. Claudio, good afternoon. How are you, Claudio? What's up?
Mad Dog, how you doing? So my dad was a huge Mets fan. He passed away about a month ago. But the thing about it is here, Mad Dog, let's play the what-if game. What if the Mets didn't sign Soto? What direction would they have went? They didn't even basically go after a starting pitching when they knew Manea was going to be on the DL and Sangjo was going to be on the DL when the season started. Yeah. What wins championships?
Pitching.
What wins championships?
I mean, here's the best way to look at it. In game 162, when the Mets had to win, they did not know who their starting pitcher was going to be.
Yep.
That's all you need to know. Here's a Met team with a $350 million payroll. On the last day of the season, they basically won a bullpen game. I mean, think about that for a minute. That's not. I mean,
and they caught a break.
Because
they caught a break. The Braves were horrible this year. And how long are the Braves going to be terrible?
That's a good point. Much better organization than the Mets are. And listen, sometimes Claudio franchises get a pass on a bad year. Atlanta is one of those teams. They've been consistently good for such a long period of time, and they also won a World Championship. They are one of those teams. The Dodgers, now I know their payroll is ridiculous, but they get a break. Houston gets a break. There are certain teams that get breaks with bad or disappointing finishes because they got, the Astros have won four pennants and 2 championships. The Dodgers have been 2 World Series. They've been in some other World Series. They were in 17, they were in 18, and they're good every year. The Braves are good every year. The Mets don't get that break because they're not good enough. They have a good year, then they stink. Then they have a good year, then they stink. Then they disappoint. Then they're bad. Then they do this. Then they don't deserve that. Here's Bill in Chevy Chase, and he says hello. Bill, good afternoon. How are you? Billy, shoot.
Good, Chris. So, with the Mets, you might not recall, but I've been saying on the thread for some time, I did not want them to see them make the playoffs because now, Chris, there's no denying this. All right. Had they made the playoffs, you'd be hearing Stearns say that was the goal all along. We've made it. Now let's see what happens. It's working to deflect the criticism from himself. And now you can't say that. And I will say this. You know what stat I'd love to see? And this is not a knock on Soto. I agree with you on Soto. Soto did everything you could expect. I'd love to see the breakdown of his stats in games they won and games they lost because when he was terrible, they couldn't lose. And then when he started hitting, they couldn't win. And that's not a knock on him, but it just shows
that's a good point.
How difficult it is for one guy to move the needle in baseball. And I never thought it was a bad signing, but I said to you at the time, as long as they don't neglect the pitching. And I will tell you this, Chris, they're right there again with Alonso. Sign Alonso, fine. But if it's a choice, and I don't know that they're going to sign Alonso, by the way. And he's going to regress, by the way. But
I agree with everything you said about Alonso. He's 31 years of age. I'd be careful there, too. Go ahead. Next.
So sign Alonso, but not at the expense of pitching. This has to stop. This has not worked. You can't deny it. And just one thing about Cohn. You put your finger on it. See, I think to Steve Cohn all along, this was just another Monet in the bathroom. Once he showed everybody, I'm the richest. No one can outspend me. He was done. He didn't really care anymore after that. So he turns things over to Stearns, and they turn into the bargain base.
I think, Bill, that Cohen was really influenced by how poorly it worked out with Verlander and Scherzer. They gave them both a fortune, and they didn't do anything. They had to get rid of the both of them. I think he realized that paying these pitchers $50 million a year is very, very risky. So I don't know if I buy that so much. He didn't say, wash his hands. But again, the problem with David Stearns is you can't go into a season with too many journeymen as your starting rotation and then hope that that is going to work itself out. It does occasionally in Milwaukee. It did last year. It's not going to happen every year.